For thousands of years, gods have been invoked to explain the unknown, justify power, sanctify morality, and to quiet doubts. Sometimes that produces kindness, empathy, and community. However, it also seems to produce cruelty because it was God's will to commit genocide to the Canaanites. It was God's will to forcefully remove and execute people who just happened to be in the way of manifest destiny. It was God's will to enslave entire races for the cause of teaching them the gospel. Even today, there are certain people who think it's God's will to arrest entire families, children and all, for nothing more than being brown skinned, so they can shake them down for paperwork, proving that they are legally allowed to live in a country that was stolen and colonized by immigrants who happen to look almost exclusively just like me. This behavior is being justified by leaders who have convinced their base that they're doing God's work, that they're in a spiritual war against the forces of darkness. In their minds, they're fighting to take back the country from the evil one. The words of Steven Weinberg ring true today, just as ever. With or without religion, good people can behave well and bad people can do evil. But for good people to do evil, that takes religion. So today, we are challenging you and your supposed deity. If your genocidal deity is real, present the evidence for evaluation. Until such time exists, where evidence has been provided, we reject your God, we reject your spiritual war, and we reject your moral superiority. Disagree? Call the show. The lines are open, and the show starts now. Welcome in, friends. Today is January 25th, 2026. I'm your host, Justin, also known as Deconstruction Zone. I'm joined today by someone who's kind of a big deal. The Duchess of Deconstruction, the Deaconess of Disbelief, and the defeater of dogmatism, Thinker.
Dang, I like that introduction, Justin. I was going to give you props on the opening that you did, but dang, I like that.
It's good to be on the screen with you again. It's been a little bit.
Yeah. It's been what, a week?
A week?
Yeah. That's a long time.
Glad to be here. Now, Thinker, you're making a foray into YouTube these days, but those who are if you're on TikTok and somehow you don't know about Thinker, and you've seen my face before, friends. Thinker has 5 times the audience I have on TikTok. You're huge. In fact, when I first found your channel on TikTok, I had been on TikTok for an entire year. You believe that? Doing deconstruction before TikTok was like, hey, check this person out. I was like, where the fuck have you been, TikTok?
Yeah. I had just started doing deconstruction. I started in 2022, the end of 2022. How long have you been on there? Was that around the same time?
I got to be honest, I've kind of lost track. I think it might have been 2023.
Okay.
I think so.
Yeah, we started really late, and we was like that. I had started talking about it on my main page, and then the Christians started reporting my page, trying to get my videos taken down. So
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I'm gonna switch to live, and that's when I met Rhea, and I was like, hey, you want to go live with me and talk about Christianity? And we've been doing it ever since.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. And I feel like you're at the forefront of a huge trend, which is people that are allowing themselves to be free enough to question what they believe.
And I love it. Look, scrolling the FYP, and we see groups breaking off and having their own discussions based off of the topics that we have. And at first, when I first started doing it, they thought I was gatekeeping. He's like, can I use this topic? Can I talk about this? I was like, please, dude, it's 2.5 billion believers. Like, we need y'all to. So yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. That's such a good point because a long time ago, I started the deconstruction cheat sheet, and
love it.
Someone's like, people are going and using my arguments out in the real world and even on TikTok. And I've kind of developed a system, like when I start hearing when I go to the other live streams, I'm hearing them use arguments that I kind of developed.
Hmm.
That's my prompt that to know that that argument works.
Yeah,
I'm not
exactly.
jealous at all. I'm trying use it if it works,
Yes,
guys.
exactly. Spread it around.
But there's so few of us doing deconstruction and so many religious people. It's like we're never going to run out.
Yeah. Well, you think, because sometimes we be sitting on TikTok waiting for them to come. I think they know about Thinker and Justin, so I don't know.
They got to. They
Yeah,
got to.
yeah.
And I
We
would say it's got to be intimidating to see you live and be like, oh, there's 1,000 people here, and she's got 3.5, I'm sorry, 350,000 followers. That should make you a little bit nervous. Although, to be fair, people get up on your live, esteemed panel members, even sometimes
Mhm.
that have literally no shame.
Yeah. I think the ones that are not intimidated, well, they are intimidated, but they feel like they have to prove something, are religious men. That's really what I
Mm,
get most of the time, are religious men. I don't think I
yeah.
ever run out of those.
Well, there's enough of them, and honestly, you can see why. It's because we're always right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's hard to be wrong with a book like that.
Actually, the one thing that I noticed, like, there's a big disparity in the deconstruction space is there are so many people that will go into your live stream and they'll hear you say like any fact and they'll dismiss you because you're a woman.
Yeah.
They will come to my live stream, hear the same exact thing, and then take it as from a credible fucking source. I'm like,
Yep. They
Victor
do
just
it.
told you that 30 minutes ago I saw you on her live stream.
They do it with Dr. B. They do it with Bash. They do it with also any man that is on the panel, me or Fee, can say the same thing. And Fee, like I'm very matter of fact. And I don't say it
Yeah.
and I'll cuss you out. I don't know if the 2 minutes is up and I can cuss you, but I will cuss you out. And Fee will say it very matter of fact too, but she's very poised when she says it. And they still would dismiss it from her, like coming from her being, very astute and poised, because we're women. And then Nelly can get up there and cuss them out and say it, and they'll take it and they'll go into a conversation and pull out evidence. And it's gotten to the point, Justin, where I've had 7 men say, I don't want to talk to you. Give me the man. After,
They're so scared of you.
yeah. Yeah.
Which, to be fair, you've read the book. That's the one thing that terrifies them because a lot of these believers haven't read the book and they can tell that you have.
Mhm.
And how long were you in the faith?
I was born into it. I
That's
was,
what I thought.
yeah, I was Kojic, and the Kojic song, "You can't just join in, you got to be born in." I was born in the Church of God in
Yeah.
Christ, and my dad was a pastor. My mother is still an evangelist. I was a missionary, and I preached. Holy roller, fire baptized, speaking in tongue, all that good stuff. But the interesting thing is, when I was deep into the church, I never read and studied the Bible the way I do today. And last night I was on a live, and I was like, "Hey, if you need me, I'm just sitting here studying." And somebody said, "This is why they're scared of you, because it's Saturday night and you're freaking studying Hebrew."
That's right. But you know what? It takes, like, so in order to do deconstruction, like I feel like one of the things you have to be able to do is go to the book, right? And so the fact that you know the book, and right now you're learning Hebrew, so you can, even like when they bring in garbage arguments, like, well, that it's a bad translation, you can go and be like, no, actually, translation seems just fine, friends.
Mhm.
Like, to me, that's the most valuable tool, is to be able to go to their turf and beat them on their own turf,
Yeah. And well,
right?
yeah, definitely, especially when they bring up the turf, expecting for you to not know, right? They think that, oh, she doesn't know Hebrew. Not a lot of people know Hebrew. And they'll say, well, you have to know the original language. And the moment I go to the original language, they start discrediting the original language. It doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Never mind. You're using the wrong dictionary.
Yeah. What one guy said he needed a Hebrew thesaurus. I was like, what do you need a Hebrew
Yeah.
thesaurus for?
Bro can't even read Hebrew. You don't need a thesaurus. Well, listen, friends. If you want to join in the conversation, we're going to grab a guest here in just a minute. You can use the web app tiny.cc/call-AXP, and if you want to call in, like the old school traditional way, the number is 512. I might make sure I'm getting this right because it's not on the screen anymore. 512-991-9242. Is that correct, crew? That's what I have it in studio. That's it? Good. All right. Make sure I can't see the YouTube screen. Okay. It's 512-991-9242 if you don't want to use the interwebs, or if the ice storm has knocked out your internet, which, if you're on your phone doing this, you can use your phone as well. But call in. We'd love to talk about your God. We'd love to hear what evidence you have for your God. And I would say this, there's some people that have like really, I'm going to call them different. They have really different views on God. And they're like, well, surely, since I don't believe in one of the normal deistic concepts or theistic concepts, they don't want to hear about my God. No, we'd love to hear whatever concept you have. In fact, if it's original, at least it's exciting and different. We've heard the same arguments so many times that, hey, I think we'd welcome something new, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. But
Absolutely.
with that, let me grab our announcements, friends, and then we're going to get started right away. The Atheist Experience is a product of the Atheist Community of Austin, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to the promotion of atheism, critical thinking, secular humanism, and the separation of religion and government. All things that are incredibly important right now. We have somebody in the queue already, so we'll bring them up. I think they might be an atheist, though. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, someone will let me know. But Jim, welcome to AXP with Justin and Thinker. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing okay. How are you guys doing? You guys staying warm?
Doing good.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I got the like 2 pairs of socks on, bro.
Yeah. Well, what I want to call about is question I always have is why are there so many people out there who want to think atheism is a religion? To me, that's as stupid as calling professional wrestling a sport.
Yeah. It might, my thought, and I think everyone's different. My thought is, I think there's a lot of people that are religious and they feel uncomfortable about being religious, right? So they feel like them being in the religious camp is kind of like a negative, like it's points against them. And so what they want to do is they want to equalize the playing field. And so rather than just saying, yeah, I'm in a religion, it's a faith, I don't really have facts for it. They're like, well, no, you're in a religion too. So it's just kind of like their way of doing a whataboutism. What do you think, Thinker?
I definitely think it's I know you are, but what am I? Or like pointing the finger type thing. Like it's about as stupid as saying atheists have no moral foundation. They have nothing to ground their morality in. Like that to me is the stupidest thing that they can say too. And so and there's this new one. Atheism is uh a white woman's religion, and therefore like black people shouldn't be atheists. It's from like the black community, because black people don't do atheism. You've joined a new liberal religion, and that's what, like, it's just stupid because atheism isn't a religion. And when they're on our stage and we're trying to, they say, I don't identify as Christian, and oh, I'm not religious, it's relationship. And we try to explain to them, you're the one who have a belief based on a system of doctrine and a deity and a system of text. Atheism isn't a monolith, right? Like, I don't know, it's just them definitely pointing fingers and thinking that they're going to shame somebody out of, or back to Jesus. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
are you in dialogue with some believers that are accusing you of being in a religion?
yes, I have had a few.
Yeah,
And again, I tell
that's
them it's
pretty
like,
common.
no, it's not a religion. Many
Yeah.
times I ask them, it's like,
Well,
when they say this, ask them, I say, you know, do you also think pro wrestling is a sport? Because I mean, I hate to tell people, it's not. It's an
or
entertainment show.
as my buddy Dalton, if atheism is religion, then abstinence is a sex position. Just not.
Yeah, that too.
No, they'll
Yeah,
say your lack of belief is a belief.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
like,
I feel like
yeah, it's like, come on.
uh, for a lot of them, I feel like maybe saying that is akin to. There's another thing they say very adjacent to it, which is, well, you have faith too. You have faith in science.
Yeah.
Dumb stuff like that, right?
Mhm.
I think these are all forms of the same problem, which is they are uncomfortable in their own belief, and they want to paint you in the same light. Like you should be insecure in your belief, even though it's not a belief.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and to me, it's crazy because although I think again, I think they also want to say that because it makes it easier to attack atheists.
Because they can't defend their book. They can't attack an
Right.
argument. Yeah.
And again,
Yeah.
I don't have faith in science. You know, I just, look at the evidence and say, well, it's a lot of stuff they got right. I mean, I don't trust everything in science, I admit, but
Well, I know this though.
at
Like
least
every time we've discovered how something worked, it was never God. It's always only gone in the other direction. Somebody said that God is responsible for this. Then we looked into it and God wasn't responsible for it. It's always went in that direction. We've never had it go the opposite direction.
Did you hear the new
Right.
question that I'm asking religious men who think they're Adam?
Hmm.
I want to know if Adam had genitals, if he had testicles, and a prostate gland, and the glands to create semen. Because if he didn't create Eve and there was no need, right,
Mhm.
for reproduction, why would he have that, right? And so at what point did Adam get all those things? And every time I ask that question, they run from the stage. One guy said, no, I will not ask those type of questions. And then he just said, God is real. And then he left. But I want to know.
I think the implication is clear because in Genesis, prior to the creation of woman, he creates the animals. And it says, Adam, find a mate among the animals. And so if he had his genitals at that time, one could only assume that God intended for Adam to,
With the animals.
yeah, just with,
Yeah,
which later he had the outlaw, which he obviously didn't think that one through.
exactly. And that's just one of those examples where once they learned that they actually had something to do with reproduction, it didn't point back to God.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff. Like the more you read through the Bible stories, the more you start finding like gigantic plot holes. And I feel like in church they skim through it, and then you're like, okay, now you've done the obligatory reading. Now listen to the preacher.
Mhm.
They're not really studying that thing.
Yeah, no, it's more a dopamine effect. They go
Yeah,
to church, they get the same messages over and over again, and they feel good, and then they go home, and then they go back when it's time to re up on, the feel good. Yeah,
exactly. Well, Jim, hey, thanks for coming up and chatting with us, buddy. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're staying warm, and I'm sure we'll see you again, huh?
Oh yeah. Like I said, I will chat with you guys later.
have a good one, Jim.
Cheers, buddy.
You too.
All right. Well, we got some calls coming in. Friends, if you want to call in, you can use the web or you can do the old school method and use your phone. Web is tiny.cc/call AXP. And the phone number to call in is 512 991 9242. And we're going to get Supreme Leader in here in just a second. I want to do a couple more announcements. Please, friends, while we're doing this, like the video, subscribe, and also ring the bell so you can get notifications. Comment below on your favorite caller when we're done. Another way that you can support the channel, other than watching, liking, and sharing, is by sending super chats. We're going to read your super chats between calls. We'll read them at the end of the show as there's any left over. It's a good way to support the channel and also to get to interact with the hosts on the channel. And if you're in Austin, follow us on Meetup. Keep up with the community events. You can see what's going on at tiny.cc/ACA Meetup. It's tiny.cc/ACA Meetup. We'll have events like Philosophy Under the Stars, game nights, and more. Also, join our weekly watch parties at the Free Thought Library on Sundays for live viewings of Talk Heathen, the Atheist Experience every Sunday. Doors open at noon, and it's a great place for building community. Last but not least, we want to send a thank you to the crew. Now, people may not realize this if you're watching on YouTube, but not only are we running a horizontal and a vertical stream, we're also finally sending it over to TikTok, which means right now we're streaming to both platforms. We have moved into the future, and we couldn't do it without our cast and crew here with us, the video operators, the audio operators, note takers, call screeners, chat moderators. Big thank you to the cast and crew who put everything together. I am incredibly excited about the future of AXP, reaching as many people as possible, because a lot of you are probably like me. You've probably been watching for years. Like, I've been watching AXP since before I was an atheist.
Really? I learned
Yeah.
about it like 2 years ago. I saw a video with Delahunty. I remember watching the video of him, and I was like, he was eating somebody alive, and I was like, holy shit.
Right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
I found AXP probably when I was in seminary, and I was already so liberal that when it flashed up on YouTube and I saw the debates, I was like, oh no, the Christians are going to get smoked. And I kind of was like a super incredibly liberal, like agnostic Christian by that point already. But I was like, they don't know what's about to happen. They're going to get crushed so hard. And I couldn't look away. Like the whole time, I'm like, don't say that. Don't do that. You know, that's going to get you cooked.
Have you ever seen a believer be able to defend it the way that an atheist who is knowledgeable about it? Like, I keep looking for conversations like that, and they all sound the same, like with very apologetic way. Like, have you ever had one of those or no?
I've never seen a good apologist. And that's why when I first realized that they were having these debates on the internet, I was like, why? Like when I was in the Catholic school, I grew up in a Catholic school. I asked my Catholic teacher, because we talked about some of these difficulties with the Bible and whatnot. And I was like, how do you know it's true? Like, how are we supposed to know what we believe is real? And she goes, you don't. Like, it's a faith. If you can't accept it on faith, then that means maybe Christianity is not for you. And I like, she's like, you either accept it or you don't. And she's like, you can't prove it to somebody. And I still think that's true today. I don't think you can prove Christianity to be true. I mean, for some people, it's convincing. Some people, it's not convincing. And then for others, it's not convincing, but they'll do it anyways just because it's what they always have known. But I've yet to see an apologist give an argument that is convincing for any of these religions.
It's crazy to say, hey, you're gonna burn and go to hell because you're ratchet and wicked, but I can't prove it to you. You're just gonna have to believe it. Like, that's crazy. Can't prove it to you. You're just gonna have to believe what the fuck I say.
Well, that's the thing that I dislike one of the most about Christianity is in order to justify Jesus dying for your sins and you getting tortured forever, is they have to convince you that you're terrible. Oh, you're awful. You're just a crustacean. Like, you're nothing. Like, God would just smash you, under the weight of his pinky finger. It's just,
but he
like,
loves you.
You have to exactly, but he loves you anyways. He fucking hates you. He'll torture you for eternity if you don't worship him. But he loves
I mean,
you.
he got off his throne and he put himself in the body of a 12-year-old because he just loves you.
The logical mess of the Trinity will never not be
Oh my
interesting
God.
to me. Like, so God, okay, everyone's a child of God. Okay, so God knocked up his child Mary
Mhm.
to give birth to himself. So, but if it's not God knocking up his child, then it's Jesus. But if Jesus is knocking her up, then that means Jesus knocked up his
His
mother.
mama.
So there's no good way to look at this conception of Mary via the Holy Spirit. There's not a
Yeah.
good way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody yesterday, and apparently Jesus is always the angel of the Lord in the Hebrew scriptures. And so I asked if Jesus became Satan, and the guy at first was like, "No, why would you say that?" And I was like, "So when the angel of the Lord turned into a Satan um, in Numbers 22,
Yeah.
when the angel of the Lord was a Satan and accusing in Zechariah 3, and he's like, they're not the same." And then he eventually was like, well, yeah, of course, Jesus was a Satan. I said, you need the devil to be the God of the world so bad that you just made Jesus Satan.
It's
That is,
wild.
yeah. Yeah.
And Zechariah is a funny one too, because it can't be true that the angel of the Lord is Yahweh manifesting as the angel of the Lord, because in Zechariah there's a conversation between the angel of the Lord and Yahweh. They talk
He's,
to each other.
yes.
They're not the same individual.
I asked him, I said, so is Yahweh saying, hey, Yahweh, why you keep fucking with the Judites? And he said, I don't know. I really love them, but go tell Zechariah. I said, and he was like, yep. It's like, I think like because they will accept that their God will talk to himself, answer himself, then tell the prophet that he said something in the place of like an angel of the Lord, and you accept this, you have the mind that can be easily brainwashed into believing that you were born from a mud man who may or may not have had testicles because he didn't have a mud woman. And now you are wretched because they ate a piece of fruit from a tree. And he had to put himself in the body of a 12-year-old, which was his mama. So he may have got his mama pregnant or may not. And you're going to go to hell if you don't bow down to him and tell him that you love him. You have the mind that would accept that.
Yeah, pretty wild.
Yeah.
Pretty wild.
Yeah.
Well, let's get Supreme Leader. I've talked to Supreme Leader a couple times. We got somebody in the queue after that. And then we'll grab your super chats after Supreme Leader friends. And I'd be curious to see how this one goes. Welcome back, Supreme Leader. You're on AXP with Justin and Thinker. How you doing?
Hi.
Yeah, how you doing?
It's a pseudonym. It's a joke. I'm not being serious.
I know. So, Supreme Leader, I've talked to you a couple times. I'd like for you to dialogue a little bit with Thinker, but the question that came in on seems ambiguous. It says, "Can humans be deceived?" Either it's ambiguous or it's too obvious to be a real question. Can you clarify?
Well, I thought it was a good. I thought it would be a good subject. That's all.
Go
Be
for it.
deceived in what way? What do you
Well, I'm just
mean
saying.
humans?
Well, like children, they can't enter into a contract until they're 18 years old, and there's a reason for that. And you can convince a child of a small child of almost anything. I mean, you could totally trick them, and they just don't have the cognitive ability to discern the truth yet. And so you can make them think anything you want them to think. And I just wondered, can you do that to adults?
Why? Yes. Why couldn't you?
So what if
You don't think
I'm
you've been
deceived?
deceived? Wait, are you a believer or are you an atheist?
I'm a very staunch believer.
You don't think that you've been deceived?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Maybe I've been deceived, or maybe you have. How do I know?
Well, I mean, if you're a believer, I'm pretty sure you're going to say that you've had experiences with your God.
Well, I'm just saying, what do I know? And I'm also saying, what do you know? Who's
I think I'm
deceived?
talking to
I
you
don't
about
know.
that.
Bream, are
Maybe
you
you're
okay today?
deceived. Or maybe I am. Perhaps. And that's humans.
How do you think we go about determining what is true in the real world? Do you think we're guessing?
Well, I'm just saying, is it possible that a person could think, look, I'm educated, all right? And I know what's going on. And I can't be tricked. And they're just deluded?
Certainly not.
Well, that's what I asked you,
Not?
right? I asked, well, I stated you're most likely going to claim that you know this God because you've had experiences. And your goal is to say, oh, you think you're using evidence, you think you're using linguistics, you're using logic, you're using critical thinking, but I have experiences. And so you're being deceived by the information that you're studying, the archaeologists, the interpretations, and all of that. But because you know this God and have a relationship with this God and have experiences with this God, you're not being deceived. And you don't need all of that, right?
Well, I'm just saying, even if I thought all that, maybe I'm just deceived. Maybe I'm totally wrong.
Have you investigated it?
Does it matter? I'm not smart
Yes.
enough to investigate it
Yeah.
the right way. I don't even know because I'm totally oblivious. You could tell me anything you want and I'll believe you because I'm so stupid.
Oh, are you mad because of what I said earlier?
Well, I wasn't listening to you too far into the show so far.
Oh,
I still think.
right before
That
you
sounds
actually
about
started
right.
talking?
Well, I wasn't paying attention to the show. I just wanted to call in to ask the question. Is
You
it
want to call in and
possible?
call yourself stupid?
I'm just saying, is it possible that I suspect that I'm way smarter than I really am? You know, that's an Kruger effect.
No. No, I don't think so.
And if that could happen to me, couldn't it just happen to anybody else?
I don't think it happened to you.
I think it did. I totally think it did.
You think you're smarter than what you're presenting right now, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I think really, I'm a really moron. And I like to think I'm smart to make myself feel better about myself. That's all.
Really?
To make
That's
myself
interesting.
feel like I'm in control and I'm aware
That's
of things and I'm smart.
That's interesting. When have you ever done that?
Well, I'm doing it right now.
You're not. You
Of
think you
course.
are, but you're not.
And if
No,
I
you're
can
not.
do that,
You're
if
not
I can
doing
do
it.
that,
You
couldn't
aren't.
everybody else be in the same situation and not know it?
You aren't doing that though.
I am doing it.
Leader, it sounds like you're trolling right now. This
He,
doesn't sound like you're having legitimate
I'm
knowledge.
not.
This is not.
he's
If I
mad
wanted to
because
troll,
he's mad because he feels like we were making fun of the mind of a believer, and he's trying to do like a reverse psychology thing, and trying to say
Mhm.
that we think that we're in control because we have all of this knowledge, and maybe we're deceived, and he's not, and like he's trying to do a reverse psychology thing. You don't like the fact that we think that your belief system is silly. We think the fact that an adult believing that a snake talked to humans, that humans are sinful because some people 8,000 years ago ate a piece of fruit off of a tree. And now all of a sudden, that's the reason why there's wickedness in the world, and not because we have greedy people making decisions out of greed. Harmful, violent people making decisions out of selfishness and, their desire to harm people. It's not because two people ate a piece of fruit. I think it's silly for adults to be thinking that in 2026. And the sooner that we get adults actually looking at the what's causing the harm and who's perpetuating it, then the sooner we can get to um, stumping some of this shit out and fixing some of this shit. But I know you're in your feelings right now.
Well, you're a woman. You're very perceptive about that sort of thing. That's true.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, the main topic would be humans in general. Are they easily deceived?
I think we're demonstrating that right now.
Oh,
yeah. Listen, Supreme Leader, I don't think you came with like anything to really talk about. I think our audience is probably bored with this.
You're bored.
This makes now our second conversation in a row where you didn't actually bring anything real. It sounded like you just wanted to like do some shower thoughts with us. And that's fine, but we got to move on to the next caller, okay?
Would you like me to demonstrate how you've been deceived?
No. I mean, I don't think you're actually going to. Last time we talked, you didn't have an argument either. You're welcome to call back. If you actually do have an argument, we'll take you after Ozzy. Ozzy is in the queue and probably has an actual argument. You definitely didn't have an argument. But if I'm wrong, listen, if I'm wrong about you having your argument, call on back. Give us the argument. We'll love to talk about your argument and do some analyzation. And I just mixed two words wrongly. Analyzation.
I do that all the time. I created deceivousness. What did I create? Deceitfulness, yeah. Deceivousness.
That's a good one. All right, friends, I'm going to grab a couple of super chats. We're going to get Ozzy in here in just a moment, all the way from Florida. Lens, hey, thank you for the 666 super chat. Says, this is a good one, by the way. Why didn't the electrical engineer get a second date? There was no spark. Rejection only hurts for a bit, though. May the quartz be with you. Rock, rock, dog, and simply for sharing. That was good. Appreciate that. Speaking of, Evan Rock, good to see you, says, my two faves. Thank you for fighting dogma with truth.
Hey, Evan. Trying.
Also, with a follow-up from Evan, thank you for the additional super chat. Says, wonder if we'll get more spiritual dung tonight. Maybe. And Satan was framed. Thank you for the $10 super chat. Says a little bit of Justin, a little bit of Thinker, and some of the devil's lettuce make for a perfect snowy Sunday evening. The fucking goats. Thank you so much. Satan was framed, by the way. Totally innocent. Didn't do nothing wrong. The first liar, the originator of lies, is God. And Apo, thank you for the $5 super chat. Says, hey, Justin the Thinker, sending love. Could you explain Jeconiah being restored? I've heard this line couldn't lead to Jesus due to the curse. So typically what they say is because Zerubbabel came from Jeconiah and he was a governor, that means Jeconiah's line was restored. But it doesn't say that nobody will ever be in leadership. It says no one will ever be king in Israel. And Zerubbabel wasn't a king. He never wore the crown. Never sat on the throne. So Zerubbabel, while he had a role of leadership, he never was an actual king, and therefore the line of Jeconiah wasn't restored. So the curse from Jeremiah 22:30 still stands. Hope that answers your question. Ozzy has been waiting in queue. So we're going to grab Ozzy and bring him up. And Ozzy is a theist calling all the way from Florida and is asking, actually, well, maybe more like stating that they're curious about atheists and why they use the null hypothesis. Welcome to AXP Ozzy. You're on with Justin Thinker. How you doing?
Hey, I'd like to give it up to the call screener first off, because the call screener seems very knowledgeable.
You call every week with a different name. No wonder I'm just going to track you down from your IP address and start calling you with different names every time.
Oh, no, I'm going to get a voice modulator. I can't figure it out yet. But once I do, then it'll be a different voice. So I just wanted to come clean about that.
Fair enough. So Ozzy, the question is fine enough. You're asking, why do we start with the null hypothesis? Basically, why are we starting that?
I I gotta give it up to the gentleman I talked to again, for real. I appreciate y'all and what you're doing. You know, the pushback, I would say that the Bible for me exists as a adult's children's story, or a children's story for adults. You think about it, Adam made of clay, his wife made of his ribs, and then they had a barbecue. No, but like seriously, that, you know, I agree, you know, with the atheists, a lot of things, but you know, see, I would say for the null hypothesis to apply, God, there would have been, had to been a God hypothesis presented and then falsified. If you're going to apply that, then you're going to have to, with the null hypothesis, God would have to be a variable. I don't know how you would quantify God if that was.
What do you think the null hypothesis is?
I'm trying to figure it out. Maybe you could explain it.
It's a statistical term. Basically, until evidence is presented, the variable is equal to 0, right? So we're starting with the variable. The variable is God, and we're saying that until evidence is presented, that variable equals 0. Your God is equal to 0 until you've got even an argument. Like, listen, even an argument can count for evidence. Now, Ozzy/Hank/Tim/Boba Fett, you've called in a lot, and we've never actually heard an argument for God. We've heard you disparage religious believers, and because you're smarter than all of them, because you're a believer in God, but not a believer in religion. One thing I haven't heard from you is an actual argument. Can you render an argument?
I don't see how would we determine what the variable God would be? If you're saying you're a pantheist, then everything is part of it. So you've got evidence there in that case.
I'm not asking you about pantheism. I'm asking about what you believe.
The universe, so there's nothing but all the evidence of science to establish that version. So there you go.
So what is the God you believe in?
That's pretty much it. The universe, like a pantheist, it'd be a paradoxical God, right? It's the creation and the creator all in one. I would say the universe would exist, like Hawking said, like a self-sustaining organism. Not necessarily, he didn't say that, but he said no God required of the universe, right? So that would be a God that required no creator or a God above it that takes care of that question. Thanks, Stephen Hawking.
Yeah, so do you believe that the universe is eternal or temporary? Do you think that it was once not in existence?
I would think it would be cyclical. That's one theory. Roger Penrose's twister theory presents that in contention against string theory by Mikhail Kaku.
Right, but I'm asking you, do you think the universe is eternal?
That is the theory from Penrose, cyclical. Einstein introduced it, I believe, originally, the cyclical model.
The problem is
model.
Einstein and Penrose aren't here, which is why I'm asking you what you believe. Do you, as a human being with thoughts and ideas, think that the universe is eternal?
Yeah, I concur with Einstein and Penrose on that, to that end. Yeah, I'd say it's cyclical, no beginning, no end. It just changes size and shape eternally.
There you go. Okay, so then if the universe can be explained without a God, what would be the reason to add a God into the recipe?
I'd say we wouldn't be having this conversation if God didn't create it, so that's substantial.
That's certainly a claim, but you said the universe was eternal, which means it wasn't created, so you can't use God as a creator. Tinker, what were you going to say there?
Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to say. Like, if the universe is God, what do you mean if God didn't create it? That doesn't make sense. And that's what I'm wondering. Like, if this is your claim that you're positing, and so what? Now what?
This would be ubiquitous and fundamental in the case of pan-protopsychism and panpsychism. The the converse of that is consciousness arises in a complex organism such as a brain, but I would say that's not been evidenced because you could clearly see a single-celled paramecium, no brain or nervous system whatsoever, exhibits consciousness. It's observed.
Okay, and why? Just answer the question of why. Okay, why? Why should we give a damn about this?
You know, I'm not saying I seek no recruits. I would say I have a faith of one. I just like this is my concept and idea. That was the original concept of the show.
Why does the universe need to be a god to you?
Like, what do you believe and why? Not
I'm asking you this. Is his name Dave? What is his name?
It's Ozzy or Hank. Listen,
Ozzy.
he changes his name every time he calls. Call him whatever you want.
Okay. I'm asking, why does the universe need to be a god to you? What's the purpose?
What's that?
Why does the universe need to be a god to you? What's the purpose?
I say, why not? It seems like it to me. I mean, you think about it, if it's a cyclical universe without beginning or end, that's literally how Christianity describes. They might have guessed a couple guesses right in the Bible, so you know that might have been one of them.
Could you imagine, thinker? Like you're a little girl, you get in trouble, and your mom's like, "Why'd you do that?" And you're like, "Well, why not?" That's not an answer, Ozzy. Why not is never an answer.
Well, yeah, then I went on to explain that, is first off, it's the universe is cyclical. That's without beginning or end. So that would be what God has been described as before. And then you have...
Wait, are you trying to say that Jesus is the universe? The universe put himself into a 12-year-old little girl?
I would say...
So what are you talking about?
Say I go with Jesus as a existential prophet of love. And like he preached the same love Bob Marley and John Lennon sang about. I'm working on my own philosophy, but like it's more for posterity because no one ain't gonna read my stuff. You know, I get it, but I'm a writer. You write for an audience.
Sure
I've hit an audience in some ways, so I'm published and.
Is this?
But no, I'm gonna have
for AX the way you did on your live with that other guy.
This actually is not, but I do think he has a forthcoming book called Bong Rip Theology, partnered with Shower Thoughts. So Hank, Ozzy, Timothy, I never actually heard an answer to the question that she asked like 5 minutes ago that you just said, why not? I guess we don't. I'm failing to see why a god is necessary in your cosmic equation.
Anyway, what have you written? I'd say check the Vinegar Tasters Are Sage Within on Amazon, and you'll see some of this Taoism that I'm talking about.
Oh my God.
Ozzy, what city in Florida do you live in? I'm going to call all the local bars and make sure they cut you off. This is wild. I'm going to send out an APP, have you tracked down and taken back to the dry tank.
Y'all are tripping. You're always cracking.
All right.
I don't appreciate it. I have good theories and hypotheses myself. I'm going to bust this Null hypothesis.
I'm sure you are. Yeah. You're the smartest of them all. You're going to take all the atheists down. Well, Ozzy, it was good to hear from you again. We'll talk to you next week, Matthew or
Mark, Luke, or James.
Nathan. Yeah, Luke, James, whatever you want to be called next week.
Science.
Any last words?
Last.
Well, those were his last words. Okay. Guess we'll move on from that.
Oh my gosh.
Dude's like clockwork every week. He really, he doesn't want to be part of a religion, but he really has this problem with atheists. Like he doesn't think we should exist.
Really?
No idea why. Never heard an argument.
And he's not Christian.
No, In fact, he doesn't even like Christians.
What?
It's weird to me. I don't know what the guy. The guy's fun at least.
Yeah.
I'm going to grab. We've got 3 super chats, and I'm going to grab Chloe from the queue. Chloe looks to be a theist from Nevada. Dr. Joe is in the house. Good to see you, Dr. Joe. Thank you for the super chat. It says Supreme Leader is neither accurate nor persuasive as a name or in application. If you have evidence or logic, try leading with that instead of being being a disingenuous prick.
Yeah.
That's about right. That is 100% it. Perhaps teacher, thank you for the $10 super chat. Says, love seeing Thinker on the show. She be slaying fools on TikTok. Please come back. That is the truth. That's the truthiest truth we've seen today. And Evan, thank you for the additional super chat. Says, render your word salad under Caesar. We don't want it.
That was good. Yeah, that's good.
That was good. All right. Let's grab Chloe from the guest queue. I don't know if Chloe has an argument, but Chloe says, hope feels like magical thinking. How do we hold on to hope without getting into magical thinking? And Chloe, that is a good question. You're on AXP with Justin and Thinker. How are you?
Doing all right. And just for the record, my leader comes with sour cream and tomatoes, so I don't know if that makes them supreme or not.
Your leader comes with your what?
It was a joke. Sour cream and tomatoes.
Okay.
Sure.
Never.
So, Chloe, you are a theist or not atheist?
I am a theist.
Gotcha. And what kind of theist are you? Do you believe in like a generic god or a particular god?
I'm a Norse pagan.
Gotcha. Okay. We don't get that too often.
Yeah, no.
Okay. So your question is, well, how do we hold on to hope without getting into magical thinking? Can you elaborate?
Yeah, I've been asking this question of theists for the last couple of weeks, really for the last year. And a lot of their answer seems to be go into prayer, go into contemplation, go into those sort of spaces. And I want to know what's the atheist alternative to that? What is the humanist alternative to that? Because I've been leaning on that pretty hard, but right now, with the way things are, it feels like magical. It feels more and more like magical thinking. And I don't know how to cope, and I don't know how to deal with it.
So I guess the question is, when you ditch God, what do you replace it with? Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Kinda. Like, I know that there is an atheist answer.
Saying that there is an
think
atheist
so.
answer. Yeah. Saying there is an atheist answer is like calling atheism religion. Like, atheists are not monolithic, and we deal with, things in society in our own ways. A lot of people go to therapy. A lot of people journal, self-talk. We don't have some set of rules or some doctrine that tells us how to deal with life. Like, it's just different for different people.
I guess that's true. I guess what I was looking for was just an alternative answer to the answer of prayer, because that's running thin these days.
I certainly can't speak for all non-believers, but I feel like there are 2 things that people typically replace that with. One is, I would say, meditation, and 2 is probably therapy. And sometimes therapists will give you tools to practice at home to help out with this. So I think those are kind of 2 recommends I would give. What do you think, Thinker?
I definitely agree. Also, like self-talk. Like, when you're praying anyway, you're talking to yourself. And a lot of times you have to, not a lot of times, every time, because it's on God. But like, when you're praying and these are your hopes, the things that you desire, you're the one who carry those things out anyway, right? So talking to yourself and assuring yourself when you're feeling anxiety, and just saying, this is how you feel right now, but you are safe. And then try to figure out where the anxiety is coming from and then deal with it, right? That's really all prayer actually was, except you were just expecting a God to do some magical thing that he never ever did, and you got yourself through it anyway. Does that make sense?
It does. But for my model of prayer, it is not, God, can you solve my problems? It is, God, can you be with me with my problems?
Either way, it's still you. That you're the only person with you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You're the only person that knows what's in your mind and your heart, whatever. And when you are going through a heartbreak, it's only you that's going to heal that heartache or allow time to do it. It's not some magical deity in the sky sprinkling prairie dust on your heart and taking the heartache away. You still have to go through the heartache, or, change your mindset, journal, cry it out, scream it out, go through the stages of grief. It's still you.
So it sounds like a lot of being able to be self-reliant and being able to self-soothe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I think that's more or less the answer because it seems like that is the universal answer, is you have to self-soothe in some way. Like you have to self-regulate and hold on radically to, you have to hold on radically to whatever it is that keeps you in this world.
I mean, you're not doing it any other way. I haven't seen anybody with spider webs actually coming out of their hands that allows them to do, go from one place to the next or teleport it. Like that's what we're doing anyway. And just think about like with a child, right? A parent doesn't always respond to a child when a child cries, right? Because maybe the child wants a toy, or they want ice cream before dinner, and they're throwing a temper tantrum. And that child has to learn to self-soothe themselves because mom is not going to let you have an ice cream sandwich before dinner, right? Like we really know how to do it until we're told that we don't know how to do it. Like we're doing.
So it really is. So it is a matter of just doing it, white knuckling it, and just bearing through.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you get good at it. It's like riding a bike. When you first get on, it's wobbly, but eventually you get a feel for it and you'll be fine. When I first deconverted and I was okay because I believed in classical theism for a little bit, but then when I got to atheism, I felt like someone like destabilized me. It took me a little bit to find my footing and figure out what I was doing and where I was going with life and how do I cope with some of the existential realities that I'm facing. But you get there. But I remember at the beginning being terrified and anxious and even angry. And I think those are all like, we could talk about the stages of grief. I think losing your religion, you go through the stages of grief as well. And I think it's one of those things where you just have to let it happen. You have to go through the process.
Yeah. It felt like walking a tightrope for me. Like I was so dang scared, but definitely allow time to pass and to get you there. It was something else that I was gonna say that I was gonna recommend, but it has slipped my mind already. It had to do with something that you said, Justin. Dang it.
Yeah, mine can be like that.
Nope.
I do that all the time.
I started
Community is
picturing
super
myself
important.
walking a type. Yeah, definitely community, and that's another reason why I'm so glad that people are starting to feel like they can come out and say, "Hey, I don't believe this." They may not be saying I'm an atheist because it took me a while to say that I was an atheist, but because more people are coming out and expressing their doubts and finding safe spaces to ask their questions, communities are being created. And so definitely getting around communities with people who are like-minded. That's what I was going to say. Get rid of the shame of your emotions. Like I think Christianity and now primarily Christianity has this belief that emotions are bad. Like anger is bad, being sad is bad. And there's a lot of shame in that. So a lot of people don't have any emotional intelligence around that, and they don't know how to handle it when they have a bad day. And the whole fucking world they're like, oh, the world ends now. I'm having a bad day today, and I don't have a God to try to figure out and make me happy again, because we can't just sit in our sadness and be like, oh, okay, I'm fucking sad right now, and ask ourselves why, or I am pissed right now, and be able to say, you have pissed me off, and yes, I'm pissed, and let that be that. A lot of times believers will come into my chat and they'll say, ooh, she mad. And I'm like, yeah, motherfucker. I'm sorry. I'm like, yeah, I am mad. Like, what? Okay. But they're saying it because they don't know how to deal with their own emotions, because they've had to feel shame and to say, oh, God, forgive me for being upset. Please take it away. You know what I'm saying?
One of those things where how we getting judged for how we react to things, even though that reaction is out of our control.
Yeah.
That kind of like getting out of that shame spiral.
Definitely. Like getting out of the shame of just feeling the anger. Like I'm not even talking about your actions, right? Because they're like, you don't want to get angry and go and fucking kill somebody. Like, yeah, you're gonna get judged and arrested. Like I'm not talking about anger like without self-control. What I'm talking about is being able to feel it and not feel shame. Does that make sense? Like a lot of times
your feelings,
yeah,
and letting it go and letting it play out and letting it find its way out in a way that's constructive or at least non-destructive.
Yeah. And being okay with not having a good day. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves, especially when we are believers, because the joy of the Lord is my strength. And what's that refuge one? He is my refuge. Right? Like
I don't know if I know that one.
I used to say it all the time when I was getting bullied at work by my director, and I used to carry this big ass Bible, and every morning I used to say it every morning. Carrying my big ass Bible, get on the elevator, because that lady was a beast, and she still bullied me every damn day, no matter how many times I carried that big ass Bible to work. And eventually it was me who got myself out of that. But just feeling it and being okay with not having a good day, knowing that tomorrow is a different day, or even just the next moment could be a different moment, right? Not beating yourself up because you cut somebody out 5 minutes ago because they were rude as hell to you. Like allowing yourself to just be and feel and move on from there.
It also sounds like a lot of learning to be okay with not being okay.
Yeah.
I think that's something I need to work on.
Yeah. It's okay to not be okay.
Absolutely. I think I still think it's Christianity that taught that lie that you have to be joyful all the time, and if you're not, then you sinned.
I mean, you've got like Galatians 5:22, which states that like the gifts of the Spirit are, you know, all these impossible to meet emotional, you know, check marks, and it's just like how do you even keep that? How do you even maintain that at all times, especially when things are bad?
It's impossible. Jesus did it. He didn't. Huh?
I mean, even Jesus got so mad he was making homemade whips and flipping over tables.
Yeah.
But I guess that's something I need to work on, because if I had to explain my argument for God, it's that it's something we've done to not be alone with our feelings, and I think I need to work on that, and that's something I need to be okay with.
Wait, what do you mean that's your argument for God? You're saying you're calling that God? Is that what you're saying?
Well, the hope that someone, anything, is listening to our prayers, our hopes, our dreams, our fears, that anything's on the other end of that line.
Okay.
So
You're saying
um,
that's what you
I'm
want to
sorry.
get rid of?
No, I don't want. I don't want to get rid of it. I want to be able to deal with it in a better way, such that I'm not leaning on spirituality so much.
Oh.
Because, like I said, it's been wearing thin, and especially with and especially with the times they are, I don't want to. I don't want to send myself back to the. I don't want to wind up like hospitalized or something. Something where I'm just like so in my feelings that everything just sort of falls apart.
Right. And we don't want that for you either.
Yeah, absolutely not.
Take some
So I think I have
time
my answer.
to try building some community with people that are already on the other side of belief. It really does help a lot to know that there are people going through the same thing you're going through, and that they're okay. Like we're all getting through it. Um, where you're at right now, I think most of us have been. So this is not like there's nothing wrong with you. You didn't do anything wrong. This is part of the process, and I know you're going to be okay because we're okay.
And the only way out is through.
Yep. Nailed it.
Yeah.
Well, friend, thanks for calling and chatting with us. Join. I have a Discord. I think you're at the Discord. We've quite a few Discord communities for atheists. You're more than welcome to join up on our Discords. It's a great place for building some community, even if it is online. And also, if you're down in Texas, there is a huge community in Austin. And we've got other atheist communities elsewhere. I know there's a humanist society in Phoenix. We've got a humanist society in Cleveland. Like, there actually are more people out there that are dealing with what you're dealing with. It's just that there's not as many people doing that as there are doing the God thing. So you have to be a little bit more intentional about finding them, but they're out there, I promise.
I will look them. I will look them up. I'm already on the ACD, so.
Okay, good. Well,
All right.
have a good one,
Thank you so
friend,
much.
and I'm sure we'll hear from you again.
All right. Bye-bye.
Cheers. That's a tough time getting to that point where you're at the edge of theism and atheism that it hurts so much to step over that bridge and get to the other side because you're leaving so much behind. There's so many worries about the future. There's so many unanswered questions. So many doubts. Like, what if I'm wrong? And it's hard. I really feel for the caller. We do have a couple more callers waiting to get in, so we'll get those here in just a second. Let me grab. We've got 2 super chats. Carolyn, thank you so much for the $1.99 super chat. Says, "What a pleasure watching this dynamic duo tonight." I think it's pretty dynamite, actually. I'm happy that she's starting to wade into the waters of YouTube. I hope she grows a following on YouTube as quickly as she did on TikTok. Dr. Joe, thank you so much for the $20 super chat. Says, for Chloe, radical acceptance, an existential form of mindfulness, can soften rigid expectations of fair or happy. There are clinical tools and interventions that make these skills practical, accessible, and sustainable. And that is the case. Our friend Dr. Joe is an actual therapist. She knows about these things. Therapy really does do a world of good, and finding the right therapist helps quite a bit. And last super chat from Collapsidalism. Good to see a friend. Says, Jay, last night on panel with me, our mother god Marilyn reconfirmed her flat earth and learned she's anti-gravity. I'm glad she's nice though. She is nice, but I gotta be honest, Collapsidalism. I knew she might still be flurf. I didn't know she was anti-gravity. That hurts. Like that people don't, one of the most fundamentally accepted things in science. People are just like, nah, it doesn't exist. Okay. All right. Well, nevertheless, I'm going to bring in our next guest. It looks like it's going to be an atheist from Pennsylvania named Chidumebi-PA. And we got a question. Oh, actually, I might have to put that on pause. Give me a second. They've got a question for Thinker. Sorry, Thinker is momentarily not with us. I think she'll be back. I think the storm might have knocked out power over in her neighborhood. I could be wrong, but
oh no!
I'll put you back in the queue. Don't worry, we won't drop you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you know what? Earlier this morning, there was some unstableness in the power grid where I live as well, and you're gonna have a little bit of that. Let's grab Steve. Steve is an atheist from Missouri, and is asking how gods develop. Wants to discuss theories about that. Welcome in, Steve. You're talking to Justin on AXP. How are you?
Yeah, Justin and Thinker are quite a duo. I'm a big fan, Justin, and
Thank you.
I'm an old guy. I'm in my 70s. Harkening back to my college days and school days, I remember a professor mentioning how gods often come from the surroundings, like the Norse people had tree and mountain type gods, like the Greeks. And when you get to the desert, there's nothing there. So that's how that type of God developed. What do you think about that? Is that valid or?
So I think that is the earliest form. Like if you look at the literature that we have, the earliest ideas of God started with like, hey, what's this orb in the sun moving or in the sky moving around? What is that
Right,
thing,
yeah.
right? And like, it's moving. It must be alive, obviously, right? Same thing with the moon and many of the stars. And they got this idea that like, well, while the idea of a god wasn't really known to them the way it is today, they would have thought, well, it's still alive, obviously. But then if enough time, you're like, well, it's different from us. It does the same thing every day. It provides life to the planet. It must have some sort of higher capacity, some higher form of existence than we do. And so then they start attributing different characteristics to it that are non-human. And then eventually people are like, I don't know. Sometimes it doesn't come out because it's fucking mad at us. So we're gonna need to sacrifice some animals now to make them happy. And so like that's like the general concept is that like it was a way to explain nature. And then their explanations for nature went from here's something that's animated to this animated thing is a god. And we see that's one of the reasons why we know the God concept is dead on arrival. In the earliest times, God was like right over there, like he's just up in the sky, or nope, just on that mountain over there, or just over there in those woods. We can't go in there. Humbaba's guarding the base of the mountain, because these were like unexplored spaces, and then we explored them, and we're like, oh yeah, there's no pixies or gods in the forest. The sky deity or the mountain deity, he's not there. We went on top of that mountain, ain't nothing up there. And so like, well, he's still in the sky, like obviously he's not in the woods. He's just in the sky. Well, then we got to the sky. We're like, nah, nothing, no God up there. And then, I mean, obviously he's in outer space, guys. He's on the other side of the firmament. And then we were able to figure out that there's stuff way beyond the firmament. And they're like, well, obviously he's in an immaterial plane somewhere very far away that is completely unfalsifiable and undetectable. So every time we learn something about science, God's location has to change and get less and less testable, because God never existed in the first place. It was an invention, and it was just enough to fool people who didn't know anything. And every time we know a thing, they alter God's existence just enough to fool people who know just barely not enough to say that's bullshit.
The late Christopher Hitchens he said he was at the Wailing Wall one time, and he saw a guy praying and stuffing messages into the wall. And he said he walked up and asked, well, pardon me, what are you praying about? What's your messages? He says, well, I'm praying for world peace and love throughout the world. He says, oh, well, how's it going? And he says, well, you know, it's like talking to a wall.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny.
Yeah. Steve, if I can just add on to something as well. I think, sorry, you might have noticed I'm not Thinker. Thinker's lost power, unfortunately. I'm sorry to the audience as well, seeing Thinker on screen and then seeing my face come up after. That must be like heart-rending, inducing like heart attack stuff. Sorry about that. But yeah, I think anthropologically, what Justin was saying was bang on. I'm writing a book at the moment about the history of religion in the area in which I live. And I think we can take it even further back than this kind of idea of asking questions, because what we had in certainly in Britain was this, when people first started populating Britain, they came in from overseas, they slowly made their way into the interior. And before we got this idea of there is something out there, we do have examples of ritual in burial. So people were already starting to think about kind of ritualistic tendencies when they were burying the dead in other forms of kind of daily life. And we get that, and we see that all over the world. And then that kind of develops, as Justin said, into this thing, and we can trace this. We can trace this through all different cultures and all different things. I think the kind of Christian thing is a very interesting one, and Justin will speak much more on this because I'm not a biblical scholar in any way. But I think we see something very, very interesting. We see two distinct phases, two distinct transformations in kind of biblical anthropology, if you want to call it that. The first one is when we see all these tribes amalgamating and bringing all these different gods together, and and then we get this one supreme God which comes out as the kind of supreme one at the end of that. And then we get this second stage in early Christianity, just after the 1st century, where we get all these Romans coming in, all these different ideas, all these different wranglings. And it was kind of, the early Christian fathers, they were influenced by mainly two sets of ideas. One was the Greek philosophers, and one was the Jewish heritage. And after the 1st century, you see that kind of Jewish side of it dying away a little bit. And you see more of this Greek influence, and then you get the ecumenical councils, which, did all the theological wranglings and stuff. And I think they're the two big areas of kind of transformation, which eventually led to the Christian faith. I don't know if Justin wants to expand on that a little bit. He'll probably be able to speak to it a little bit.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you know what? The formation of Christianity is so dependent on Greek philosophy. It's wild because, like, we know Bronze Age religions before philosophy, right? They're a very bare bones. God needs the burning, rotting flesh of animals to be happy, and then it goes this way, like very different, like immaterial deity that is timeless and spaceless and locationless, and then you've got to find a way to like integrate that into your religion, or the religion dies. So you see Christianity, if it started with Judaism, goes through this huge change from the beginning of Judaism to Christianity, just these gigantic changes, because they're trying to integrate the latest philosophy and the latest ideas of the world. We're like, our God can't be wrong, so let's take this data and integrate it with our religion. Let's try to
mold it,
mush them together.
Yeah. Wow. Well, listen, I'll tell you what, you amaze me with your knowledge, and I'm so thankful that I get you on YouTube, and I want to keep supporting you. one source that maybe, I don't know if you're familiar with, but put me on to atheism was a little black book called Ken's Guide to the Bible. Have you ever heard of that?
No, I'm not familiar with that.
It's it's not very thick. It's just a little black book, and he takes all the outrageous Bible verses and classifies them and gives his 2 cents on them. And it was really something. Yeah, Ken Smith is his name. I don't know. It's not very thick or anything, but it's
a good idea.
It's really catchy. He classifies all the outrageous ones and all the various classes, conceited ones, and it's kind of good. So,
talking about books, Steve, there's a really interesting one which has not long been out, which is really useful if you want to understand kind of early Christianity through a Roman lens. And it's called Dominion by Professor Alice Roberts, who's a historian. And it's really, really good. It kind of concentrates on and Britain and Gaul and those kinds of areas. Alice is a British historian, but it's really, really good. It gives a lot of information about Constantine and his relationship with the Eastern Emperor. And there's stuff in there which is not kind of common knowledge, but it's really interesting and it's really important to the question. It talks about, when we hear a lot in this space about early Christians being persecuted, and indeed they were being persecuted, but we kind of get this narrative from Christians that they were persecuted because they were Christian. And they weren't persecuted because they were Christian. They were persecuted because they were displeasing the kind of Roman gods at that time, as were other groups of people. So Christians weren't the only ones being persecuted. They were being persecuted more. They really were, don't get me wrong, but they weren't the only ones being persecuted. They weren't being persecuted for being Christian, which is a really important point that we often don't get in these conversations. In 303, I think it was 303, an edict came out from Constantine, and this was before he officially accepted Christianity. Or that's a kind of dodgy point on its own when he actually did that, and if he ever did really do that. But the official line is that he adopted Christianity in 303. This was before this, and he brought this edict out, which said all religions are free to practice what they want to practice. And it ended this period of persecution. And a lot of Christians were then given the property back, which had been taken from them during that period of persecution. So, there's lots of information like that, where when you're talking to Christians, when we talk to Christian in the space, you don't get that information because they're trying to prove a point. So they try to, and it's natural for them to do that.
Doesn't fit their argument,
Yeah, they want to kind of bolster their argument, and it's easier to say. It's easier to say Christians were persecuted because they were Christian, rather than Christian were being persecuted because everybody who was displeasing the local gods was being persecuted. It kind of takes the edge off it a little bit. But yeah, there's lots of good information out there if you want to go and look these facts up. And I'm geek. I'm really interested in all this stuff. But there's easily accessible books that aren't quite as academic for people who just want to kind of get an overview of it.
Yeah. Well, my interest has been rekindled with the Finding Justin and the other atheists, and you are really. I'm thankful for your knowledge. It's really nice to know. So, especially for an old guy.
You're only as old as you feel. Actually, it's funny. When I was, I'm going to say about 19, I was running a 5K, and I got passed by a guy that was in his 70s. He was in like the top end of the senior citizen class, and he trounced me. So, I mean, never stop moving. Just keep doing the thing. You're only as old as you feel. And whatever you're doing, have fun doing it.
Okay. Well, I used to act quite a bit. But now they only need me for a corpse or something like that. So.
I love it. I love it,
That's
Steve.
fantastic.
Thank you, guys. I'll let you go. I enjoy the heck out of you, and thank you very much. Bye-bye.
That was a pleasure. Good to hear from you, Steve. That was funny. Good guy. So we lost Thinker. Did you guys hear back from her yet? I didn't hear back. I hope she's okay. So what I'm thinking is, let me bring up Chidumebi, and we'll see if they wanted to have a call with us, or if it was a question that specifically actually, I'm looking at it now. Honestly, to be fair, this is not the type of question we should be answering. So I'm not really sure we should be taking this particular call unless Thinker shows back up. It's very specific to her, and I'd hate to be talking about her while she's not here. So I guess we could put that on one for later. But Richard, we're on a screen together. It's been a hot minute.
It has. Hello.
So for those who haven't seen your content yet, because a lot of people here that came over with Thinker and myself, tell us a little bit about your background.
I've been talking to people for well over 30 years on these subjects because I, like Steve, I'm very old. And I've host the Talk Heathen, which is another one of the Atheist shows. Actually, I'm going to do a bit of shilling as well. On the 21st of February in Leeds, if you're in Britain, I'm actually doing a talk. I've been invited to do a talk, and I'll be talking about philosophy. I'll be talking about the universe and consciousness, and how we can kind of use all those things to properly discern what is most likely true. So if you want to go along to that, it's a free event. There's no charge. If you want to go along to that, hit me up on my social media. Don't try and add me as a friend on my personal Facebook page, because I don't add people. So you'll be disappointed. But I do have an official Facebook page, and I'm on TikTok and all that stuff. If you want to hit me up and get the details for that, if you're interested in coming on and listening to me rabbit on for an hour, then you are more than welcome to do so. But yeah, I've been with the ACA for forever. I'm part of the furniture now.
Part of the furniture is wild.
Yeah. I love my background's actually in Buddhist studies. I'm new to Christianity. I've been studying it for about 5 years, but I'm not by any means a scholar. So I kind of try my best, but I don't read any Greek or Hebrew or anything. I just kind of look at it colloquially. I've got more of a background in Islam and Buddhism, as I said. So I always enjoy callers on those stuff, but we don't get them very often over here. So it'd be nice.
Not nearly as much.
Yeah.
Now, were you ever a participant in a religion?
Not particularly. No, I've been to, because I'm an academic, so I do philosophy, I do religious studies. This book I mentioned that I was writing is purely a religious studies book. So it's I get to talk outside of this space where we challenge people about what they believe and why. I get to talk to religious people a lot, and I've been invited to mosques, to Buddhist monasteries. I've visited, I've been doing Buddhist meditation. You were talking about meditation earlier in the show, for 20 years. So, I've got, and it's rare to have this, a full collection of the Pali Tipitaka in hard form. It's 11 times longer than the Bible. It takes up like 2.5 shelves on my bookcase. So it's interesting if you're sad and boring and old like I am.
You are not boring in the least. So, you're into philosophy. Is there a particular category that you like?
No, you know what? The way I look at philosophy is, my undergrad degree is in religious studies, philosophy, and ethics. It's all those three things in one kind of category. And I get frustrated because I think there are two extremes in philosophy. Which I don't like. You get this dry kind of, oh, Descartes said this and Plato said that and blah, blah, blah. And it's very Western orientated. Unless you get someone who happens to be influenced by Eastern religions and who is a Western philosopher. And that's okay. You have to do that kind of stuff. There is importance to it. Sometimes I think too much emphasis is given to that kind of history side of thing. And then you get the other kind of side of the thing where you get the Phil bros. And were immensely frustrating to me because... And this is for both sides of the argument. This isn't just religious people. This happens for atheists as well, where you get this kind of push of this means this. This is the correct position on this. And I'm not sold on a lot of philosophical positions. The beauty of philosophy for me, I know it sounded like I've just been beating on it for 5 minutes, but the beauty of it for me is that it allows you to ask questions, and that's what I love about it. And you get things, you get people who have positions like the universe is contingent or the universe is necessary. It is one of the or the other. And I'm not decided. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. And I don't have a concrete kind of opinion on it. It's the same with, this idea of do we have free will or not? I don't know. It's a question I'm interested in, but I don't have an answer on it. And I think asking the questions is far, far more important than having an answer in philosophy. We've got the scientific method to give us good answers and good evidence for things. Philosophy is there to ask the questions, and I think there are too many people in the space who want to, use it as a pedestal and say, look at me and my brilliant ideas. Forget that. Ask the questions and have the conversations, and that's what it's all about for me.
Yeah, for sure. Our guest, Chidumebi-PA, did talk a second time with our call screener to add some new information. Says that she would like to talk to us as well. So, being that Thinker isn't here yet, I think Thinker's on her way though. Let me grab the guest and see if we can get these questions knocked out, and hopefully we'll have Thinker here shortly. Am I reading this name correctly? Is it Chidumebi-PA?
Chidumebi-PA.
Oh, Chidumebi-PA. Sorry about that.
Chidumebi-PA.
Oh, Chidumebi-PA. Sorry, Chidumebi-PA. Gotcha. Sorry about that.
It's fine. Yeah.
So it says you'd like to talk to Richard and I. What about?
Well, I know the question was originally framed for Thinker, but I think I can reframe this in a way that you can, in a way that can be palatable for both of you as well. Why is it that the movement, the prosperity gospel movement, often targets those who are poor the most, those who are the most likely to be in a negative social situation? If a lot of these prosperity gospel pastors are concerned with wealth, right? Why aren't they targeting a lot of the richer folks of society, the kind of people who will actually give that, I don't know what that pastor's name, who will give that pastor a $10,000 tithe so they can get a brand new watch?
Yeah, Kenneth Copeland, TD Jakes, Joyce Meyer, they're all the same. So
yeah,
here's from my experience. I know why. I think I know why this happened. So when I was in ministry, we used to do fundraisers, and I learned pretty early on in ministry that when you do fundraisers, you want to invite normal folk. Don't invite wealthy people to the fundraisers. They don't donate anything. In fact, that still holds true for a lot of the fundraisers I go to. The people that are down to earth are much more likely to be open and giving of their money. And I thought for a long time, why is that the case? And I think for a couple of reasons. One, because they know what it's like to be in need, right? So they understand what it's like. They can empathize with somebody on that in regard. And the other thing too is like for some people, they never wanted to be uber successful or super rich, and they're just happy being a normal person. And part of for them, part of being a normal person is sometimes you got to help somebody out. You know, I think there's this thing that happens when you get too much money, where even if you worked for it, I think people get to the state where they're afraid to lose it. Like they become scared. Oh my gosh, what if I lose this money? And so they clench, right? Whereas a lot of people that are on the lower socioeconomic status, they don't have that. They're like, fuck, I already got nothing. Like here's $100. You know what I mean? I'm already broke, right? So to me, I think that has a lot to do with it, and all that plays into the prosperity gospel, which is, hey, listen, the reason why you're poor, the reason why you need to give us money, is because we'll make all your dreams come true, right? That doesn't work on people that are already incredibly wealthy. We don't need the promise on one end that your dreams are going to come true if your dreams already came true, right? That's for the people that are still trying to make it, right? And so they're inherently preying on people who are in need, and then they go to people that not only know what it's like to be in need, but also would like to not be in need. It's like a double whammy. And if you can convince that person that, hey, even though you're in need, if you give money to me, God will make you rich beyond your wildest dreams. I think there's a certain number of people that would be willing to, at least motivated to give to that cause.
I understand. I understand what you're saying, and I understand the logic and the rationale. I hate it, but you're right. I hate that you're right, because that means that it becomes very easy to take advantage of people in those situations, even when people that make those offers are in their face buying another private jet. Or because this topic came up because I'm not sure if you saw the stunt this comedian pulled where he parodied the types of megachurch prosperity gospel pastors by swinging on a rope and basically wearing a jetpack to show all the ridiculous stuff prosperity gospel preachers do.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I would say the prosperity gospel preachers know what they're doing. They're true scam artists. They know they're scamming people out of money, and they know who their audience is. And they scam them as much as they can scam them. That's my opinion. Even when I was a Christian, I didn't have even a single minute for prosperity preachers. And even like some of them at some point, like Benny Hinn at one point kind of repented from the prosperity gospel. Well, as soon as his checkbook started to run dry, he went right back to it, because at the end of the day, he's not for real. He's not sincere. He's much more interested in making sure he's collecting funds than making sure that he's preaching something that is in accordance with the Bible.
Typical. So air quotes repentance.
Yeah, exactly. For sure.
Yeah. I know that, and I know that Thinker is having power issues. I do hope that Thinker is safe. But if Thinker does get to talk to you, do you think you could pass on the original question to her in the original context it was made, so that, and if Thinker wants to post the answer to it on TikTok or whatever, that would also be great as well, just so that I wouldn't try and force you guys to answer in the original context.
So I think Thinker's power went out, but they're telling me right now that she called in using the phone number to talk to you. So I don't know how that works. should I if I put thinker up on the talk box, will she be joined with our current guest? Or how does that work? I can't hear him. Just bring her in like a call.
Possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, she's in right now. Thinker, can you hear us? Thinker?
Miss Thinker?
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
There we go.
Hear you.
Yep.
Okay. Hey, I'm so sorry. The ice storm knocked the electricity out.
Oh no.
Of course.
Yeah. I thought I was gonna make it, but like Greg said, Jesus has been messing with us all day. So, but we're here.
So, did you hear the question? I guess.
Yeah. No, I didn't.
Oh. Sorry for interrupting. What did you say, Miss Thinker? I interrupted you. What did you say?
Oh no, it's okay. I didn't hear your question. What was the question?
Okay, now I can give it in its original context. I had spoken to your co-host about. I asked him about why do prosperity gospel pastors and preachers tend to target people who are in bad social economic situations? But the original context was directed to you to say, in your experience, why does the prosperity gospel movement target Black people the most? Why do they go after Black people so hard compared to white or Latino? Yeah.
I would say it's that deprivation, right? There is a huge wealth gap in both of these communities, and which would take some type of miracle to be able to close that, right? And then the systemic issues within all around the world, actually, when it comes to creating wealth, when it comes to the American dream, positions of power, it's not as easy to do. And for a lot of people in very low-income communities and also communities of color, it does feel like it needs or would take an act of God in order to make something like that happen and happen very quickly. And so wealthy people are less likely to believe that if they write a check, a God is going to supernaturally add zeros to whatever you give to God. Wealthy people use churches like mega churches as tax write-offs. Like when they give to the church, they know that it's going to be a tax write-off. Where low income and primarily churches of color are doing it as like a slot machine. And they're taught that blessings, the more you give, the more you will reap, or the more you'll be blessed, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. And pastors of that caliber, they know this, and they play on that experience of these particular communities, because they know that there is a need there. There's mostly hurting there. When people are suffering and they're hurting, they're more likely to try to do something or believe that, that there is some type of supernatural thing that can happen to stop the suffering, to stop the bleeding. Does that make sense? And they're typically less educated. Literacy rates are low. They don't research. They don't verify. And then they have this fear of questioning. If a pastor says, God said, write a $2,000 check, because they've been indoctrinated into honoring and obeying authority, they're less likely to question that authoritative figure. And then they also see the wealth of this person. So they're like, oh, he must know what he's talking about. God has done it for him. So if I just follow him, then God's going to do it for me.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that sounds a lot like those ads you used to say, "Hey, see, look at me, look, I'm rich. Do you want? Here's my book on how to become rich like me. Only pay $39.99, so you can be just rich as me." And that's what it sounds.
And pastors doing that. Yeah, absolutely. And we see preachers do that all the time. Right, and they even write books about it. Right, they write books. They do. Like we saw a prophetess. I don't want to say her name, but she charged $1,000 for prayer, and people paid it. What? Yeah, she charged $1,000 to $1,500 for prayer, and people paid it.
That's wild.
But when there's this pressure, right? Where it feels like it's going to take a lot of work or a long time, or there's no answer, that feels like something supernatural is needed. And so, unfortunately, our community was heavily indoctrinated into this is how you're going to get your blessings, not education, not hard work. Although they still say you have to work hard, right? They still tell you that you have to work hard, but the only way you're going to get it is, through God. If you're in, on top of that, you have to be obedient, you have to give, and you can't sin. Like it's stacked on. Like it's.
That just reminds me of something Chris Rock said. If you're black and you're Christian, you got a short memory. So just because it sounds like a lot of the tactics that were used, just like a continuation of tactics that were used against black people. So.
Yeah, and most definitely black communities, but I would also say low income communities. I think this works on anyone who has a lack of literacy, right? And they typically live in like low income areas, and they're dealing with stressful situations, and they want to stop the suffering, and they're hoping for, that there is some supernatural entity out there looking down on them going, oh, look how hard my poor baby is working. Look how obedient they are. Let me open the floodgates. Like, I know you've heard that song, open the floodgates of heaven.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I heard it.
Rain down on me. Yeah. And it's kind of like doing a rain dance. Like they sing that song and they think that the blessings are going to flow, and they ignore the fact that they got to get up every morning, put 2 feet on the ground, go clock in, make sure they're on time, make sure they're there every day. And then when they get a paycheck, they're cashing that paycheck and making decisions on what to do with that money. There isn't a God involved in that.
So I think the answer so basically what I'm also hearing is that the best way to combat the prosperity gospel taking advantage of people is to provide more education and literacy opportunities for people of low income and especially adults. Right?
I think these questions, and I think these conversations that we're having, right now, which is why, I'm excited to be on this channel, that, it reaches a broader audience, but even like the conversations that we have on TikTok, we bring that, to the forefront and discuss that and try to raise awareness that you are the one that's making these decisions. You are the one getting up and going to work. Like, why are you giving your hard-earned money away to someone else and thanking a God for the shit that you do every day? Mm-hmm. And so trying to just raise the awareness of critical thinking and questioning. I think the more that we do that, the less likely people will let themselves be bamboozled by these mega pastors.
Okay, thank you. Regarding your foray into YouTube, I just wanted to warn is that YouTube seems to be trying to demonetize and deplatform a lot of atheist channels or a lot of atheist platforms that promote critical thinking and atheism. So if you suddenly get demonetized or get attacked by bots, it's probably something like that. So just want to warn you that's been going on recently on the YouTube side.
I'm not worried about it. I don't do it for the money anyway. So that's okay. The thing. Like, I'm good.
Oh, and also the algorithm has been trying to make it harder for people to see the ACA on YouTube as well.
Really?
So yeah, it's often it's getting more of a situation that you actually have to sometimes search or already be subscribed or have a bell icon. But if you take it off, the algorithm seems to try and push away shows like the ACA, the Line, and all of that, and those types of and even Aaron Ron, all those atheist-focused channels. I don't know why. I'm not sure if you guys were aware, but it has been happening. So.
Well, I do know Seth got his channel taken down momentarily. That was a real thing that happened.
Yeah, I heard about that. But yeah, so just a heads up, if that the algorithm is not being kind to the ACA as well. So just wanted to give that heads up. But thank you, Ms. Thinker. Thank you for answering my question. I find the reality distasteful, but I appreciate you answering it.
You're so welcome. I hope you have a great rest of the day.
You too. Stay safe. Stay safe. Right.
Yeah, this whole thing about these, not just prosperity preachers, but a lot of people in this position who are holding you down with one hand and saying, come on, work harder with the other, but filtering the money you're making into their own pockets rather than everyone else. It's real interesting thing was said during that call, and that's about education. And Carl Sagan said, I think it was 1991-ish when The Demon Haunted World was published, I think somewhere around that time. And he pretty much predicted if education levels dropped across the board, then we would see pretty much predicted the world we are in now. And it kind of a lot worse than he predicted. Education is so important across the board. It really, really is. And, I think we should encourage, there's a reason why certain members of society want to attack universities and want to attack institutions of learning, because they want to keep people down. And in that position where they've got the power, it's not necessarily about money for a lot of them. It's about the power. It's about having that power. And religious organizations are really, really good at doing this. Have been doing it for thousands of years across the board.
Well, friends, I'm going to bring in our last guest, and then we'll read what's left of our super chats after that. I'm going to keep Richard and Thinker both live with us when I take the last call, and we'll see how we deal with this. The guest is going by Watcher. Watcher 215, welcome in. You're on AXP with Justin, Thinker, and Richard. How you doing?
Good evening. Good to speak to you all.
You as well.
Good evening.
Your
How are you?
call-in says that your call log says that you've got reasons, or you want to tell us your reasons for believing in Christianity?
Yeah, I find, let's see, I guess one of the primary reasons is I see purpose, information, and design in the world and the universe.
So which one do you want to tackle first? I would say for purpose. I don't think that purpose is transcendental. I think we get to decide what our purpose is. So like when you say purpose, I think.
Did you decide the purpose of your lungs?
No, biology did. So biology dictates how biology works. There's no reason to believe that there's like a magic man in the sky that designed lungs.
But the lungs have a purpose, and you're saying biology is the one that designed that purpose? Is that what you're saying?
No, I don't think that lungs have a purpose. I think lungs have a function. Purpose entails some sort of a purpose giver functions don't. The reason why lungs work is because lungs that didn't work didn't evolve.
Function and purpose are not the same in your mind.
Yeah.
I find them to be synonymous when I think of function and purpose.
Unfortunately, that's not the case. Something can have a function and have no purpose given to it. It just does it, right? So if it's a natural consequence of the universe, then we would say
Doesn't
it
that
has
sound
a
weird?
function.
It sounds
But to
weird.
say
It
that
sounds
something has a
weird.
purpose, well, it doesn't sound weird if you know how words work. To say that something has a purpose would entail that there's a purpose giver, right? Typically, a purpose means it's intentionally designed to do something, right? But lungs weren't designed.
Right. So because I see function, I'm saying that is an indication of purpose, which gives me reason to believe there is a designer.
Why?
I disagree.
Why?
It just follows logically in my mind. Why not?
What is the logic? Walk us through the logic.
When I see a function, the function is defined as its purpose, what it does. It has a purpose. The lungs have a purpose. I mean,
So walk us from that. Walk us from that to a designer. Walk us from that to a designer.
Well, he said biology institutes the function of the lungs. And I'm saying that if the lungs have a function, that's a purpose. That means biology is the designer because it's giving a function. And that follows logically in my mind, not in yours. Why?
Because I don't see as you do, as you've told us you do, that something that has a purpose or a function, and I'm happy to use those terms interchangeably for the sake of this. I don't see that those things infer that there must be a designer for them. What I'm the reason I want you to walk me through that process of going from there is this function, there is this purpose to these things, and there therefore must be a designer. Walk me through it, because all you're doing at the moment is saying that there must be a designer, but you're not telling me why there must be a designer. You're not bridging that gap for me.
Well, simply because there is a function, and although you're disagreeing that function and the other speaker is disagreeing that function and purpose are synonymous. I'm saying that function and purpose are synonymous, and because okay, that's fine. We can disagree on
word
that.
Purpose. No, we're not disagreeing. You're just disagreeing with the dictionary. The dictionary says purpose is the reason for something to be done or created, meaning there's somebody designing something with a purpose in mind. Whereas something having a function is independent on whether or not it was created or if it has intention behind it.
Function is evidence of design. Function is evidence of purpose.
Watch it. Just hang on.
Because
I think I was just going to say, I think of something to say.
I was going to say, like, a knife, right? The function of a knife is to cut, right?
Correct.
But but the purpose may be to cook something, right? Somebody may use it for a different purpose. Function and purpose are not the same thing.
Okay, I can chew on that for a minute. There may be something that you have there. I have to think about that a little bit more. But would you agree that function is evidence of a possible creator? Is function not some type of evidence of a possible creator?
No.
Why don't you agree?
Just because we have lungs in our body does not mean that there was an intelligent being who decided, I'm going to put these lungs in this baby's body for the purpose of breathing air in and out. There are children who are born with underdeveloped lungs. And like you would have to say that that creator is intentionally putting underdeveloped lungs, like intentionally creating babies with underdeveloped lungs.
No, the underdeveloped lung is a corruption. It's not, it is something that has been degraded. So we're looking at degraded things all around us all the time.
It doesn't matter. You can't say that a creator, only creates.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
You dropped out for a moment after I asked you about degraded functions around us, like things that don't work properly. They're corrupted things.
Yeah, you can't. What you're positing is that your creator only creates things that work. Right?
No.
Only create.
No,
that's what you're positing.
No. Let me. If you think that is what I'm positing, let me correct you about what my stance is. I believe that he did initially create everything good, but corruption was introduced as a judgment for disobedience.
You're saying that your creator did that, right?
Yes.
And therefore your creator intentionally created lungs that are underdeveloped in babies as a punishment of disobedience.
Yes, he made the creation that was good subject to corruption as a result of our disobedience.
That doesn't make any sense, because children are born with underdeveloped lungs because the mother decided to maybe have decided to drink or smoke, or the mother had a biological defect in her body that caused the lungs to be underdeveloped in her fetus.
It's all the consequence of sin.
It's not the consequences of sin. That is called biology. That is called.
It's the knowledge.
It's not. You have to take into consideration the actions of human beings, environmental
all of that is
situation. Right. That's not a creator. It has nothing to do with a creator.
All of those things are what we do, right? All of those things you just mentioned.
Exactly. Right, which is a natural process. Exactly. So that's a natural process, right, of biology. What you are doing is ignoring all of that and saying a creator did it. And you're saying because humans have lungs, therefore, because humans have lungs in their body, and some intelligent designer had to be smart enough to say, let me put lungs in a human's body so they can breathe air in and out. But then when those lungs don't work properly, it's not that intelligent designer's fault. It's a human sin. And then you are ignoring the biological factors that would cause lungs to not work. You are ignoring environmental factors. You are ignoring the human, action of the human. I don't know where it dropped off.
You said, you're back now. You said you dropped out when you said the results of our sin, and then you dropped out. I didn't hear anything after that.
I'm saying you are ignoring you are ignoring real issues that would cause a child to be born with underdeveloped lungs. You are ignoring environmental factors.
How am I ignoring it? How am I ignoring anything?
Because you are positing that there is an intelligent being that is designing this and then making a decision to design lungs with a defect as a result for punishment.
Right. There's a sovereign over humanity. I acknowledge that. So I'm not. I think you're ignoring the sovereignty of God over all of creation.
Your God isn't sovereign. Your God is not sovereign. Your God isn't sovereign.
We will know.
Your God is not sovereign. Your God cannot. Your God can't talk unless he's using humans' lips. A sovereign entity enforces things. A sovereign entity creates systems. Your God can't do that without a human being.
That's all we.
God isn't sovereign.
That's all we observe around us. Reality is exactly that. But
Watcher.
Exactly what?
May I ask
reality.
you a question?
Go ahead. I think somebody.
Systems and sovereign judgments that are being revealed in the earth daily against sin and rebellion against the word of Christ, who is the light of the world that God sent.
Watcher.
And
Watcher.
Watcher.
Am I muted?
He just came to preach.
I don't think I'm muted. Watcher.
No, he just wants to
Watcher.
preach.
You're not muted. I can't hear you.
Watcher. Right, Watcher, I have muted you now because I'm trying to talk to you. I'm going to unmute you. I'm going to ask you a question and I'd like you to answer it without preaching at me, if you don't mind, please. You are now unmuted. Watcher.
Thank you. Yes.
You said that this was God's punishment for sin, right? For the act of original sin. Is that correct?
What's this that you're talking about?
The baby's being born with non-functioning lungs.
All right. Everything that's defective in creation right now is a result of the corruption of the creation that God allowed.
So why then why doesn't this punishment of babies being born with non-functioning lungs, why doesn't it affect all babies if that's part of his punishment?
Because he has grace. Every breath we breathe is the grace of God and the love of God for us, that we should be thankful.
That didn't answer the question. Does the Bible not say, and I might need Justin or Thinker to jump in here because I'm not a biblical scholar, but doesn't the Bible give a prescribed punishment for original sin? Because I'm pretty sure it does. I'm pretty sure it tells us exactly what the punishment is for original sin, for both Adam and Eve and their descendants. And nowhere in that does it say babies being born with non-functioning lungs. Am I incorrect there, Justin? And
no, there's no non-functioning lungs in Genesis 3. You've got painful childbirth, you've got tilling the land, and then on top of that, you've got the snake having to crawl on its belly and eat the dust of the earth. But nothing about underdeveloped lungs, surprisingly.
No, I didn't think it.
Justin, what about the corruption of creation that you find later in the New Testament? You don't remember that part?
No, I do remember that part. I wasn't answering that question. I was answering Richard's question because he's right. So now the New Testament has this idea that humanity has fallen and become corrupted because all of the seed of humanity was inside of Adam. So when Adam became corrupt, so did the seed. You find a little bit of this in Romans 5 and also in the book of Hebrews. To me, that's preposterous because the way the book of Hebrews justifies this, namely, is that all human beings were inside of Adam when Adam sinned. Therefore, when he became corrupted, all human beings became corrupted. But not only is that not true, just like genetically, it's also doesn't take into account that like there was not a single pair of individuals that started this whole thing off.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's when I see babies that have bad lungs and other babies with cancer and things of that nature, I think that explains it quite explicitly in the Bible. I accept that testimony as true. I think it matches with what we observe.
I don't think it explains it unless you think that God is a vicious monster that wants babies to suffer for sins they didn't commit.
No, I think the devil is, because he lied to us and he gave us suffering. The knowledge of suffering is what he offered Eve. And
where did the devil lie? Because I'm reading
that's
Genesis.
His native language. That's his native language.
God says in Genesis chapter 2 that in the day that you'll eat of it, you'll die. And the day that they ate of it, they didn't die. Satan says, surely you won't die. You'll become like God, knowing good and evil. And in Genesis 3, that's exactly what happens. When you flip over to verse 22, God himself says that man has become like one of us, knowing good and evil. They don't die that day. They get removed from the garden, and they're no longer allowed to eat the tree of immortality. That's it.
It's all part of death. All of that was true. They died.
It certainly wasn't true. If I said, today you're going to die, and then you die 100 years from now, did I lie?
In the day that you eat of it, it says, if you investigate the actual language, dying you shall die, which is exactly what happened. Which
I have investigated. That's not what the phrase means. You don't even know Hebrew, do you?
I've investigated it, and that's what I found to be true. I found the testimony of God to be true, and the testimony of the devil to be exactly what we experience in the suffering in this world today.
About the language in which Genesis was written in, right? Mothtamut means dying. It's an infinitive. Dying, you will die, which is usually translated into surely you will die. But it also says hayom or bayom, in the day that you eat of it, right? So in the day that you'll eat of it, you will die. It doesn't say that you'll become mortal. It doesn't say that you'll become dead eventually. It says in that day you will die. In that day they did not die, which means either God lied or God changed his mind.
Well, God is true always.
Well, he certainly isn't true, because the Bible says things that are patently untrue, like Ezekiel chapter 12. God specifically lies to Ezekiel. He tells Ezekiel that all the visions. He tells Ezekiel that all the prophecies that he's giving them are going to come true in his day. Did they all come true?
Mm-hmm.
You'd be wrong then. They didn't all come true in his day.
Okay.
Have you read Ezekiel 37 when the Messiah comes? Did that happen during his time period?
You know what? I know there's parts of there has to be parts. I think there's parts of the Bible perhaps that I haven't read, but I feel like I've read the whole Bible.
Yeah, I would imagine Ezekiel is not the part that you read.
Yeah,
because what we find in
I did read what Jesus said, and I'm most emphatically listening to what.
Well, Jesus was a liar and a fraud as well. He said he's coming back within the lifetime of his disciples, and then he didn't.
You sir are a liar.
I can just show it to you. He says it in Matthew 10:23, and he says it also in 16:27 through 28, and he says it again in 24:29 through 34. And I'll read it for you. I only assume you haven't read it, and that's fine. We're used to reading the book to Christians. When he sends his disciples out to the villages, he says, surely you will not have finished going through all the towns of Judea before the Son of Man comes. That's Matthew 10:23. And then he doubles down in Matthew 16. He says, the Son of Man is to come with his angels in the glory of his Father, and then he will repay everybody for what has been done. Truly, I tell you, there are some standing here who will not taste death before they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. And that didn't happen. He didn't come before they tasted death. They're all dead now. Then he did it again in chapter 24. The sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and all the tribes of the earth will mourn. They will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with great glory, and he will send out his angels with a loud trumpet call. They will gather his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. From the fig tree, learn the lesson. As soon as its branches become tender and put forth leaves, you know that summer is near. So also, when you see all of these things, you know that he is near at the very gates. For truly, I tell you, this generation will not pass away until all of these things have taken place. So Jesus, on at least 3 different occasions, says he's coming back within their lifetime.
Watcher, which part do you think Justin's wrong on? Give it zone in and give us the direct part.
He was wrong on all of that, but I would specifically say when Christ predicted that there are some standing here, right? Peter, James, and John, when they went up on the Mount of Transfiguration, was the fulfillment of that prophecy. Yeah, I love it.
Wrong. Wrong again.
Absolutely
So
right.
this is where reading comprehension is important, because when he went on the mountain, first of all, he didn't come. It says in the passage, if you read carefully, it says the Son of
Read
Man is to
carefully.
come
Read
with his
carefully.
angels in the glory of his Father. When he went on the mountain, did he come with the angels and the glory of his Father and repay everybody for their deeds?
No.
That's what it says.
That,
It says the Son of Man will come with his angels and the glory of his Father, and then he will repay everybody for what has been done.
everything.
So if that didn't happen, what that means is that the prediction didn't get fulfilled in the transfiguration, which means the next verse doubles down on it when it says, truly I tell you, there are some standing here who will not taste death before they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom.
Right. So wow,
coming in the kingdom entails that you're coming from somewhere. Where is he coming from?
heaven, just like.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. And when he went up on the mountain, he didn't come from heaven. He just walked up a mountain. This passage is quite clear. It's literally identical to what he says in chapter 25, verse 31. If you go to Matthew 25, 31, he tells you exactly what it means to come in the glory of the Father with all of the angels. Again, I know you haven't read it, so I'll read it for you. So he describes it for you. It says, when the Son of Man comes in his glory with all the angels with him, then he will sit on the throne of his glory.
You don't
So
want to listen.
what's it mean when God says he's coming with all the angels?
Coming with all the messengers of God. Angels are messengers.
To do what? To do what?
Judgment, to enact judgment.
And that's what he said in Matthew 16 he was doing. He said he's coming with the angels to repay everybody for their deeds. And he said there are some standing here who will not taste death before they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom, which never actually happened. Peter, James, and John didn't see the Son of Man coming with all the angels to judge mankind, did they?
They did.
No, they didn't.
The glory of God.
No, they didn't.
They did. Yes,
so
they did.
You already told me that the coming in Matthew 16 is coming from heaven. In Matthew 17, when the transfiguration happens, where does he come from? Does he come from heaven?
It was a vision.
I didn't ask you that. In Matthew 17, when Jesus walks up that mountain, is he coming from heaven? Silence is fucking deafening right now. Yeah. Did he come from heaven or not?
Did he come from heaven? Yes, he did come from heaven.
No, he didn't. He walked up from the base of the mountain. Try it again. Did he come from heaven or did he come from the base of the mountain?
How did he get on the earth?
He walked up the mountain. Try to focus. We're on chapter 17 with the transfiguration. He walked up the mountain. He says he's coming from heaven. In the next chapter, he's not coming from heaven. He's coming from the base of the mountain.
Yeah, you know you're cooked. That's why you won't let me speak. You're cooked.
I'm letting you speak. I'm not letting you speak over me, and there is a difference. If you had learned any manners, you would know that speaking over somebody isn't the best way to have dialogue with them.
I agree, sir. Excuse me. I apologize for speaking over you because I agree with that.
Watcher, you said you'd not read the Bible fully, which I'm sure all three of us appreciate your honesty there. Do you read the Bible at home, or do you predominantly get it from the church? And I'm asking this for a specific reason, because most churches, most Catholic and apostolic churches, if I can speak, follow a 3-year liturgical calendar, where they don't read the entire Bible. What they do is they follow seasons and go through certain teachings, and then after a 3-year cycle, repeat those teachings. So when you go to church, you don't get the full Bible. What you get is this prescribed things, and it's probably largely because some of the stuff in there is horrific, and they don't want you to know it. Do you predominantly get what you know of from the Bible, from your church and in your community, church community, and Bible readings recommended by the church? Or do you do independent Bible readings? There isn't a right or wrong answer to this, by the way. I'm just interested.
I primarily go to the source, the Bible itself, and then I rely on prayer in my Bible study.
Okay, so how do you choose which parts to read then when you go to the Bible itself?
I read it all.
You've just told us you haven't read it all. You probably haven't.
I know. And like I said, because I know there's parts that I have missed or I haven't but I am focused since I was 10 years old to now. I just turned 59 in December. I'm in my 60th year, and I have been reading. I continue to read the Bible and make that my primary focus, along with prayer for understanding.
I appreciate that. I want to bring Thinker in. Go on, Thinker.
Yeah, I do have a question. The reason you're reading the Bible is because you believe that this God wants you to be a good person?
No, because I believe that God sent Jesus as the light into a dark world of ignorance and blindness that we're in. That's why I saw the light.
Okay, cool. The blindness and the ignorance is not good, but your God wants you to not be blind, not be ignorant, and that's good?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And so if we go back to the beginning of the story, because like I find that a lot of y'all kind of like stick to this Adam and Eve story because it's the beginning of your so-called self-deprivation that y'all do to yourself on a daily. What I would like to know is, okay, so the thing that helps you be this good person and not be blind and all that is you're able to look and say, if I kill someone, that's evil, right? That's morally evil.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If I slap someone, if I like beat my wife, that's morally evil.
Mm-hmm.
If I see someone hurt on the side of the road and they need, medical attention, and I call the ambulance for them, that is morally good.
Yes.
I find it interesting that a God who, in the beginning of his creation, commanded his humans that he created not to gain that type of knowledge. Like when that God says, don't eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which is symbolic for gaining this moral conscience, with, gaining this knowledge, this ability to rationalize, to be prudent, to, have wisdom in situations like that. He commands his first creation not to gain that knowledge. And then he tells them, if you gain a moral conscience, you'll die. Do you die today from knowing that it is morally evil to kill another person? Or do you think that's what actually sustains life?
The knowledge that he didn't want us to gain was the knowledge of suffering. That's what he didn't want us to gain.
It's not the tree of suffering. He did not say, do not eat from the tree of the knowledge of suffering. He says, do not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And then when they ate from that tree, it says their eyes were opened. They had a conscious awakening, like a moral conscious awakening. They knew good and they knew evil. It's not the doing of good and evil. It's knowing good and evil.
They already knew. They only had good in the beginning before disobedience. The knowledge that the devil offered them.
It doesn't say that. What they had was a naked. Let me finish, please. What they had was a naked conscience. Like it literally says they were naked and they were not ashamed. And in the Hebrew, that word for naked is an idiom for the word oron, which describes the serpent's knowledge, the serpent's wisdom. So they lacked the wisdom that the serpent had. And they were not ashamed. So we're talking amoral humans at best who were not ashamed. And what I'm hearing you say is that you prefer a God who prefers a world with humans who lack morality, and they're not ashamed.
Uh-oh.
Which is that's what you're saying, because that's what this God commanded his humans not to acquire. And it's interesting to me that today, let me finish. You don't know what that word means, so you should probably stop trying to use it. What is interesting to me is it's interesting to me that the God that you believe you serve today wants you to have that knowledge, wants you to.
No, he didn't want me to suffer.
Can you stop? Can you stop?
Stop what?
Can you stop?
Stop what? What am I just responding to what you're saying?
I don't think you have. I don't think you have this knowledge because you don't know how to have a civil conversation and not interrupt people while they're talking. Like maybe you need to go into the garden and eat from the tree. Like you're like naked, conscious, leaning on your God's understanding right now. And honestly, like that's the mindset that this God wanted his humans to have. And when a human lacks morality, then you see evilness. When a human lacks knowledge and they're ignorant, this is where evilness lives, because ignorance breeds violence. Ignorance breeds rudeness. Like it's interesting to me that this same God is wanting you to be this, light of the world.
He is the light of the world.
I didn't say him. I said you.
Pardon?
Watcher, you said that the God didn't want us to suffer. Do you think that God is all powerful and all knowing and all loving? Then, do you believe in that God?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So if it's all powerful, do you think that he could create any universe he wanted to create? Any number of an infinite number of universes?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think in one of these universes that he could have possibly created, he could have created one of these universes, and in that universe, Adam and Eve did not commit original sin? They freely used their choice not to commit sin.
I guess that's kind of above my pay grade, but yes, go ahead.
If that's the case, then, and God could create any universe he wanted to, and he could have created one where there was no original sin by Adam and Eve using their free will, why did he create one where there was suffering? If he's all-knowing and he knows all outcomes before they're going to happen in every universe that he could have possibly made, why would he make one where there is suffering, where he knows there's going to be suffering, when he doesn't want us to suffer? Don't you think that's a bit of a contradiction?
I think it's a lack of our full understanding. There's much that we don't understand.
Why do you think it's a lack of understanding? I've just walked you through it and you've agreed to it.
No, I'm just saying in general, there's a great gap in our understanding of all that there is.
Okay, where's this gap in understanding in that process I've just walked you through? Because you agreed that God was all-knowing, so he knows all future events. You agreed he could make any universe he wanted to because he's all-powerful. So in every possible universe, he knows all future events that are going to transpire. And you agreed that he could have made a universe where Adam and Eve, using their free will, did not sin. So in that particular universe, sin would not have occurred. There would be no suffering. And yet at the same time, he's made a universe where suffering does exist. And then you're saying that he doesn't want suffering to exist. Well, we've just walked through an example where he could have created an alternative universe where there was no suffering. So why did he do that? Why is that contradiction there?
Suffering has a purpose. Suffering has a purpose. That is good.
That doesn't answer the question, because you said God didn't want us to suffer.
That's true. Also,
suffering has a purpose.
Actually,
suffering has a purpose.
Without contradiction, without contradiction, they're both true. Without contradiction,
they're not true. It is a contradiction. So, if God doesn't want us to suffer, that's different than God purposing us to suffer to learn something, right? If God purposed the suffering for us to learn, that means he wants us to suffer. One of those two
No, he
can't
wants
be
us
true.
to learn righteousness. He wants us to learn righteousness and suffering.
Okay, so he wants us to suffer.
This part is, he wants us to learn to do what is right.
That means he wants us to suffer.
Yep.
No.
Yeah. Like, do the angels, are the angels righteous?
Like, I don't want my son and daughter.
Do the angels have to suffer? I'm confused. Are the angels, the angels live with him in his house, right? They wherever he is, they have his name written inside of him. Like, he trusts them, right?
Angels are just like you and I.
This is how I know you lied when you said you read the Bible. Like, do you not know that your God said that he has angels who has his name written inside of them? They carry his name in.
I'm one of them. I carry his name inside of me.
Sure you are. The angels that live in the house with your God, he trusts them, right?
Yes.
Okay. So that means that they're righteous. So did they have to suffer? Like, did they have to go through the suffering?
I don't know.
The answer is no. The answer is no, right? And that means that your God can create beings, right? In your worldview, your God can create what he wants. So this whole idea of he wants us to learn righteousness, if he wanted you to be righteous, then he'd have just created you righteous. He wants you to suffer. This is why he did in the story. Hold on, I'm talking. In the story, he says, don't gain a moral conscience because I want to use your ass to do my dirty work. The system, this story is symbolic or allegorical for powerful systems here on the earth, right? There are people who use minds like yours to perpetuate and do fuck shit. And this is why we see genocide. This is why we see men willing to beat their wives because they believe that they were made from dirt and they have dominion on the earth and women have to submit. Y'all believe these stories and you keep so-called women in line because powerful men want to always control things. This is exactly the way what your God wants. Your God wants you to suffer. Your God does not want you to reach the so-called American dream. Doesn't want you to be wealthy because then you won't need the God. Then you'll know that you are like the God. And if God wanted righteous beings, he'd have created it.
Well, we were created righteous, but we went wayward. We went our own way. We didn't listen to his instructions, so.
Well, you said he wanted this. You said he wanted this, though. You said this is what he wanted to teach you to be righteous.
He doesn't want us to be unrighteous. He wants us to be righteous.
And he wants us
you're
to
actually
suffer in
double
that learning
speaking.
process.
Hmm? Say again?
Go on, Tinker.
I'm sorry.
Richard said, and Richard said, and he wants us to suffer in that process of becoming righteous again. Here's the crazy thing: your all-knowing God created righteous beings. Your all-knowing, all-perfect God created righteous beings and had no idea that those righteous beings were going to do something to become unrighteous. So then he had to create a plan to make those righteous beings suffer so he can make them righteous again. That makes no sense, and you are double talking.
He knew from the foundation of the world what was going to happen. So Christ was slain from the foundation of the world, from the very beginning. He knew that he was going to have to suffer himself to redeem us.
It didn't have
you
to,
just
because
made your
he could
God
have created
so
any universe.
Pardon?
He didn't have to do it because he could have created any universe. You've already said this. He could have created a universe where freely choosing, Adam and Eve didn't sin. So suffering would not have entered the universe. He could have created a universe which was just perfect and heavenly from the beginning and for all time. But he chose not to.
If it could have been done any other way, Christ would have found that out when he was praying in the Garden of Gethsemane.
So God's not all powerful then? God's not all powerful or all knowing?
Says you.
No, says you. You've just said that. You've just given that as a logical implication of what you said.
No.
You said it couldn't have happened any other way. If it couldn't have happened any other way, God is not all powerful. Because if God was all powerful, he could have created it another way. You've already agreed to this.
Well, my logic is fallible. Then you said I've agreed to something that's wrong. What I'm saying to you is Christ.
Which God do you believe in then? Which God do you believe in? Because now you're telling us you don't believe in one that's all powerful and all knowing and all loving.
I believe in the God that sent Christ into the world. That's the God I believe in.
But we don't know which God that is, and seemingly neither do you.
You do know. As the world knows, everyone knows.
No, we certainly don't know. That's why you can't come up with a valid argument for your God.
Ignorant. You're willingly.
Although I have two really easy valid arguments why your God isn't really. Want to hear them?
Of course you do. Go ahead.
Yeah. Premise number one: agree or disagree. According to 1 John 4:12, no one has ever seen God.
Right.
Okay. Jesus was seen.
Mm-hmm.
Conclusion: Jesus ain't God.
Okay. Go ahead and have that. I'll let you have that.
I got another one just as fun. Premise number one: Jesus is the visible image of the invisible God, according to Colossians 1:5. Yes or no?
Indeed. Yes,
okay.
He is.
So the only face of God you'll ever see is Jesus's face. That's why he said, "If you've seen me, you've seen the Father," in John 14:9.
Pardon? You're asking a question? Are you asking a question?
Yeah, the only face of God you'll ever see is Jesus's face, because he says, "If you've seen me, you've seen the Father," and because God is invisible, Jesus is the visible part of God, right?
Yes, he was manifested in the flesh. Yes, and as far as in the flesh, correct. Yes.
Right. So the only face of God, the only face of God that he actually has is Jesus.
That
right?
he actually has is Jesus.
You got it. Now that makes
Jesus. Can I at least ingest and understand your question so I can answer it properly? Okay, so we agree that Jesus is the manifestation of God in the flesh in the earth. Are we agreed on that or not?
Jesus is the face of God. I just said that. Colossians 1:15 says that Jesus is the visible image of the invisible God, right?
Correct.
Which means God's face, the part of God where he has a face, is literally Jesus, right? That's the only face of God that he has, is the Jesus part where you can see it.
In the flesh, correct.
Well, he doesn't have a face outside of the flesh because he's immaterial.
That's not true.
Right?
He does. No, that you just.
How do you have a face while also not having a face? A face is a material term.
Not just the material or physical, fleshly, corruptible.
What are faces made out of?
The spiritual world is real. The invisible part is the true
what's
reality.
What's God's face made out of?
The natural world is just the shadow of the real world.
What is God's face made out of?
Light.
Light's visible. The Bible says that God is invisible. Jesus is the visible manifestation of the invisible God, which means he's not made of light because light is photons and we can see photons. Try again.
Light makes everything visible, and God is light.
All right, so what I'm asking you, he's not light because he'd be visible. If God is light, then God is visible, but the Bible says that God is invisible. Colossians 1:15 says that God the Father is invisible.
You and I are in darkness. He lives in unapproachable light, and he is light.
He's so afraid of getting cooked he won't actually follow. Is God visible or not? God the Father, is he visible?
He was made visible by Christ.
I didn't ask if he was made visible. I said, is he visible independent of Jesus?
No, he's not.
There we go. Okay, so God the Father is invisible, which is why Colossians says that Jesus is the visible image of the invisible God. Now, do we agree that faces are visible?
Yes.
Okay, so God's face is Jesus's face, correct?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. So the Bible says, obviously, that Jesus is the face of God. We finally got there. That's premise number one.
Mm-hmm.
Premise number two comes from Exodus 33. And it says, no man can see the face of God and live. Conclusion, Jesus isn't God, or God lied in Exodus 33. You can see the face of God and live, which is true.
By the grace of God, Christ was made visible unto us. You got me. Yeah, you got me.
All right.
And aren't you happy?
We got a double cook there on basic logic. So I guess that's all I have to add. Richard, think you got anything else to add?
All right, Justin. All right, let's celebrate. Come on, let's celebrate. Yeah, you're cooked.
Watcher. It's not about cooking you. It's not about that. What it's about is getting you to think through the things of what you believe. It's not, nobody's here trying to roast you. You've been very respectful for the most part. You've been very honest for the most part. And I think that what I would like you to do when you finish this call, maybe not today, maybe give yourself some time just to digest, come back, return tomorrow, watch the rerun of the show, and just digest what's being said to you. And all those times where you've kind of said one thing and then you've had to go back on what you've said because it does not make logical sense. And it's not about roasting you. It's not about having a go at you. It's not about proving you wrong. What it's about is getting you to have good reasons to believe what you believe. And that's all it is. And you've noticed we haven't been shouting, we have not been cursing at you. It's not about having an argument with you. It's about getting you to say to yourself, because it's important. And I think you think this is important as well. I want to believe things for good reasons. And at the moment, it's obvious that you don't. And all we're saying is think through the things that you believe, walk through them, make sure you've got good reasons for believing them. And if contradictions come up, as they have done, talking to all three of us, why are those contradictions coming up? And the answer to that is that what you think is true is not actually true. And that's really important. And it's really important to acknowledge in yourself. Nobody's trying to roast you. We're not here trying to have an argument with you. What we want to do is give you the tools for being able to believe things for good reasons. That's all I've got, Thinker.
I will say he was rude to me. He did interrupt me, but I know I'm the only woman here, so that might be.
Apologize.
It's your fault for being a woman, Thinker.
Okay. Sure. What do you say, Justin?
I said that's your fault for being a woman. You should have done that.
I know. Damn it. I should have been made from the dirt too. what I would say is I think that you should ask yourself why you're okay with worshiping a God who created a world so that he could murder his son. Because if you say that your God said from the beginning of the foundation of the world that Jesus would die for the sins of the world, and he intentionally created a world where sin had to exist, and created those conditions that require for somebody to die in order, to achieve whatever goal of morality you think your God wants you to have. Your God is responsible for Jesus' death morally. And if you told me earlier that, morally it is wrong to kill somebody, and your God did that intentionally. So you need to ask yourself why you're okay serving a God who intentionally murdered his son.
It was wicked men who killed Christ. Wicked men who killed Christ.
It was your God's plan. You already told us your God put the hit out. Your God knew it before he created the world. He created the world.
He knew he would lay his life.
Hold on. Hey, there you go
down.
again. Why are you apologizing? Why are you apologizing? And you're going to do it anyway.
What do you mean?
You didn't hear me talking?
I'm sorry?
You didn't hear me talking?
Oh, I've talked over you. I apologize again. I have a habit. I'm sorry. I'm working on that. Sorry.
I know. That tree. If your God knew from the beginning of time, before he created this sinful world, that he would have to kill his son in order to save this world, and he created it anyway, and made sure that the conditions for this sin existed in that world, your God murdered his son. Your God is morally responsible. Your God is morally responsible for the death of Jesus. And if it is immoral to kill someone, if it is immoral to premeditate someone's death, to put a hit on someone, your God did that. And all I'm saying is, I think like Richard said, the things that we've talked about in this call, I think these are questions that you want to ask yourself, because you told me that you want to be a good person. If you really want to be a good person and you really think that it is immoral to harm another person, ask yourself why the image that you believe that you are created from comes from a God that would kill his own son intentionally.
Okay, this is where I disagree with you. He subjected himself to the murder of wicked men, is what he did. God didn't kill Jesus. Jesus was sent, and he subjected himself to the wicked actions of evil men on our behalf. This was an act of sacrificial. God did.
Did he send him knowing he was going to have him killed to save you?
Yes.
So then he put the hit out,
Your God killed his son.
Pardon? Say again? Hello?
It's exactly what she said. God put the hit out.
No, man put the hit out. Evil men conspired to the killing of an innocent man. Yes,
nope,
God
you just said your God sent him. Did your God send him to die?
He sent him, yes, to subject himself to...
Was it part of God's plan to have him die?
Yes.
Okay, so if God planned, he premeditated somebody's death, that means your God put a hit out. Word for word what thinkers said. It's crazy that you can't grasp it.
He meditated the subjection of Christ to the desires of evil men. There's a difference.
Meditating the subjection, no, he planned for it. Jesus said that these things need to happen in order to fulfill the scriptures. God predestined it from the foundation of the world. Ephesians chapter 1 says the same thing in Revelation.
Predestined what? What did he predestine?
His son to die.
Mm-hmm. And how did he die?
He died by God's own choosing. God sent him to the earth and even had a betrayer, designated an individual. Jesus says, I know the one whom I've chosen. designated an individual and said, this guy is going to betray this guy. I've foretold it. I planned it from the beginning. It was always going to happen. Was there anything we could have done to prevent Jesus from being crucified?
Apparently not. The garden just.
There you go. So if there's nothing we could have done as a human species to prevent Jesus from being crucified, that means it was predestined, it was determined. It doesn't matter if the Romans did it or the Jews did it. It was part of God's plan. It's irrelevant whether or not you think humans were involved. Humans were merely pantomiming. They're merely acting out God's divine plan.
They were acting. They were acting out of their evil, like we all do.
No, they were acting out of God's divine plan.
Like you do, and I do.
I love how he's so up in his feelings, accusing us of evil because we don't believe in the sky carcass.
Yeah, I'm in my feelings of love and joy, and that's.
Yeah, he sounds like you're loving and enjoying this conversation. Thinker, you got anything else to add?
Nope, that was it.
All right.
Well, listen, I think we've had enough of the love of your God. Thanks for coming and chatting with us. We're way past our end time. It's almost 8:30, but please come back next week and the week after. I'm sure we can have additional discussions on various topics.
Thank you all for your time. I appreciate it. I'll call back. Goodbye.
All right. Cheers. Well, then, that was something, eh?
Yeah.
Friends, I'm going to read through our super chats. We've got like maybe 7 or 8 of them here, and then we're going to close out. Godwin, good to see you tonight, friend. Godwin says, I once spoke with an atimist. Yes, no time. Actually, Godwin, there is a case to be made that time doesn't exist. And there are like actual physicists and like people who study this that believe that time may actually be an illusion. Same way we say that choice is illusion in determinism. It's a really interesting concept. I got sucked down that rabbit hole like 15 years ago. I don't know if I'm convinced by it, but it is an interesting concept nonetheless. I think you should check a little bit more into that.
Funnily enough, on that point, when I was maybe around 18 or so, I was thinking on this subject, and I kind of came up with this idea, and I was wrong, by the way, that time didn't exist because I kind of put together the fact that time was consciousness plus events. And I kind of got this idea from, I think I was watching The Twilight Zone, and time stopped. And time stopped. And I noticed that the only reason we knew that time had stopped is because events had stopped. And that there's consciousness from interacting with them. So I came up with this idea quite wrong, as I have been many times in my long, long life. But it's a really, really interesting thought to go around. Anyway, I came up with this idea. I said, I told those close to me, I don't think time exists. And the first thing anyone said to me was, when did you decide that?
Yeah, so like it's I mean, it's a logical trap, but it doesn't actually solve the problem, which is time just us using relativity to track progression? Or is time something that actually has fundamental properties? Like, can we say that time dilation would entail that time itself exists as like a transcendental property of the universe? Just like space is like a property of the universe. I think it's pretty deep, but I get it. Like, it's impossible to talk about time without using what we colloquially would say is time, like the division of any 2 moments, right?
Yeah.
I asked Dr. Blitz on this. I said, Dr. Blitz, what is time? He says, it's what the clock does, which is not a satisfying answer. And I've talked to some who really think that it's fundamental to the universe, like it's a transcendental fundamental property. And I've talked to some people that it's really not. It's just the relationship between any 2 things. It's really deep subject, but I get what you're saying, Richard. I really do.
Yeah, great subject.
Interstate, thank you for the super chat, my friend, says, nurse here. The expectation of a pain-free life is how we got the opioid crisis. Medication ads don't help. Either pain and sadness are a part of life. Neither pain or sad, either or neither. Either pain and sadness are a part of life. Well, I mean, they kind of are. But you know what? To the point that Richard was making, God could have created the pain-free world. Like, there's no reason why he had to create this world. And if he did want you to learn something from it before you get to heaven, well, that's problematic because the vast majority of anyone who ever ends up in heaven died as a baby. Like of our whole history, we've got way more dead babies in heaven than adults, which means the learning from this life wasn't actually all that necessary. Soul building doesn't win. Len Silverweb, I thank you for the $5 super chat, says, Justin, for someone who wants to start learning about religions from the ancient Near East, where do you suggest to start? That's a good question. Specifically in the Levant, I would check out Zionie-Zevit, and then I will also check out Theodore Lewis. Theodore Lewis wrote on the history and character of God, I believe is what he called his book. It's huge, humongous. And Zionie-Zevit, I think, wrote on the religions, plural, of ancient Israel, I think is what he called his work. But you also find good books by Mark S. Smith and John Day. Both of them write on the Canaanite Israeli religions backgrounds. When you get past that, like I would specifically go to like Mesopotamian religions, and that one's tough. One of like the classic like widely available and cheaply available ancient Near Eastern teachers was Leo Oppenheim. He wrote a number of books on the ancient Near East. It's pretty good. But specifically on the religion of the ancient Near East, see, that's different because I learned about the religion of the ancient Near East by reading the primary documents. I've got them on the shelf behind me, actually. That's the best way, is to just read their primary literature. So, but if you don't have that, this isn't too bad. You might want to look at something like Mesopotamia and the Bible. It's a good starting point because there are a lot of religious concepts that cross over because of the Bible connection. And then after that, I mean, most likely you'll probably just want to get like a textbook on Mesopotamian religions, which there were a lot. Or you could just get ancient Near Eastern texts relating to the Old Testament, and you can read the primary documents and learn all about their gods. Also, you might want to there's a 2-volume series that's available online called The Spirits and Devils of Babylonia. Really good, really good. It's free now. It's in the open domain, so I would check that out. Sorry for the long-winded answer there. Space Barbarian, thank you for the super chat, says, you're only as old as how much you complain about young people. Oh.
Get off my lawn.
True. Gretchen, thank you for the 311, says, wouldn't be an atheist without tech issues, or an atheist stream without tech issues. Well, we're doing something new this week. We're streaming vertical and horizontal feed, and we're sending it over to TikTok. So there's a lot going on. And for our first run, I think we did okay. And also, Thinker didn't actually have any tech issues. She just lost power because of the storm. So all in all, I think we did pretty good. Evan, thank you for the $1.99, says, lungs are pretty much pneumonia machines. El God. Yeah. Especially as you age, the odds of getting pneumonia is like really high. And the odds that you might not live through it get exponentially higher as well. Interstate, thank you for the additional super chat. It says, before Samwise, before Samwise introduced hand washing while delivering babies, women died in mass, and the religious said it was because of Eve's sin. Yes, that is the thing, because first of all, theoretically because of Eve's sin, there probably are a certain amount of childbirths that come from that. But the amount of things that are like what we would consider basic routine medicine nowadays, they just blamed on evil spirits or on God's punishments or the witch, the evil eye. And now we know better. Now we know Jesus was casting out not unclean spirits, but, on education. Last super chat from Slow TDI says, this guy got the testimony of God and the devil. Wow, I need to know what he got his spiritual decoder, where he got his spiritual decoder ring, because this sounds like bullshit. I know. I did actually had a Holy Spirit decoder ring and I broke it, guys. I apologize. I can no longer decode the Bible anymore. I need a new decoder ring or else I don't know anything about it. But thanks for sticking with us for a long stream. And I was so happy it worked out. We ended up getting Richard and Thinker in the stream, which was phenomenal. And Richard, usually the backup doesn't get a whole lot of action. It's like sometimes like as the backup, you're like okay, I got to take notes just in case something happens. Today, just in case it happened, this is why we got a backup. We're so glad you're here, buddy.
Yeah, you know what? I've worked with Thinker on Talk Heathen when I was a producer of that show, because I've been with the ACA forever, people. There's people in the chat saying they've never seen me before. I've been around forever. And it's just great. It's absolutely great. I've worked with you before, Justin. You're meh. But it's kidding, joke. It's great.
I'm mid.
Being on the stream with both of you guys. You're both so knowledgeable. You're both so entertaining. I'm just privileged to be here with you both. I really am.
And Thinker, man, was I happy to have you today.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. I wish the ice storm didn't knock my electricity out, and I hope I'm able to come back at another time and,
yeah,
have some conversations with y'all. But it was great.
If that's all Jesus has to throw at you is a little bit of ice, he's in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, because I don't give up you.
Well, listen, friends, thank you so much for being here. We had a long one, and we're going to be here at the same place, same time next week. Please stay warm. Please take care of your mental health and tell your friends and family you love them. And we'll see you at 4:30 Central Time next Sunday.
Bye, guys.
Watch Talk Heathen live Sundays at 1 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTTH and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/callth.